All right, Drake and Air here. NRG Championship 2023, Stage 2 upcoming. When I told you that we'd be right back, don't go anywhere, that was a mistake. I apologize. I should have said go have lunch for half an hour and then come back. But anyway, here we are.
Back.
Drake, we've got updated graphic to show you of the players in the field now.
I love the thumbs up. That's so fun.
Well, we had to find some way to differentiate the players that did well and did not.
A record, I think, would have done fine. What? You have your 4 eliminated and your 4 people that have advanced to Stage 3.
Okay, so if you're following along, So from Pod A, Will Kowalczyk and Ben Unger do not advance. From Pod B, Eric Burkhart and Chris Smith failed to make it through. So they are out of the tournament. They'll be paid out based on how many wins they got. Steven Dykman, Fletcher Johnson, Jonathan Hobbs, and Matt Hoey advanced to Stage 3. So we will not see them this evening. They'll be back in action tomorrow morning. The other 8 players, Derek Davis, Ryan Hayes, Theo Jung, Matthew Weiss, Kyle Gonzalez, Grayson Nemitz, Raja Suleiman, and Daniel Weiser will be involved in the the double elimination bracket tonight. The format for that is up in the air.
Each
match, each match, the players will sit down based on seeding. One of the players will veto a format. The other player will veto whatever format so both players will choose the format they don't want to play.
Right.
Which is basically what it comes down to. Both players will choose the format they don't want to play, and then they'll play the match in the other format. If you win 2, you're through. If you lose 2, you're out.
Clean enough. And, obviously, entire tournament on the line for some of these players going to be, make or break, get one more shot. So people like Derek Davis, who we watch quite a bit of, managed to squeeze in at 2 and 5. Of course, that is due to a lot of winning players in his pod. Was the other pod. Some 4-3s are still battling, and some of them got advanced to Stage 3 based on some tiebreakers. We don't have a slide for that, but we have some tiebreakers that are involved, starting with total match points in Stage 1, then some head-to-head results versus others involved in the tie. Third is fewest numbers of games lost. And then the fourth and final is NRG Series leaderboard ranking. I'd be surprised if that one got used at all. But that is why you see people like Derek Davis at 2 and 5 still playing in this tournament. And people like Eric Burkhart, somebody else we watch quite a bit of that we weren't totally sure, even with that final win, he was going to be able to stay in. And he was not, unfortunately. Poor Breakers at 3 and 4 is going to be out of the tournament. And Grayson, the other 3-4 that gets to live, gets to battle on. So some tiebreakers at work with all those 4-3s there in Pod B.
Yeah, really, really kind of a split as far as all the big winners were all in Pod A. Apparently, unfortunately, taking advantage of Will Kowalczyk, who had an unsuccessful weekend. Anyway, we can pop up the prize support while the players are getting ready for the first of the 3 double elimination rounds this evening. And you can see that Will Kowalczyk will still walk away despite finishing in last place with $500. $400 was the base minimum plus $100 a win in Stage 1. And you can see it going on from there. So 4 players will now be paid out. Their prizes are locked. 4 players are locked into the top 8. And 8 players still in the running. If you want to
money invites and Pro Tour invites, I mean, even if you're playing in the elimination rounds, still a lot to play for. And of course, like you mentioned, the prize breakdown from there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are interested in joining us this upcoming year, 2024, we have the first 4 events are scheduled. Maybe we can bring that up. There we go. February, April, May, and June. The events that are indicated as showdowns, which you can see are the 2 in February, the 2 in May, and 1 each of their 2 weekends, will guarantee the winners a slot in the championship at the end of the year. Other than that, point totals will determine who the remaining competitors are when we reconvene for the next NRG Championship a year from now. Players are seated now at the feature table. We can see it on our preview screen. So we are close to getting things going. When I get the information on who's playing and what format they're playing, we'll pass it on to you. In the meantime, Drake, these exclusive events are pretty cool. You've been a part of one of these, one of the Star City Players Championships. How do you look back on that experience?
Very fondly. I mean, actually, ironically, an event I played with you in it, you as the returning champion. And I mean, it was a really great experience. And this is something that I think highlights a lot of what makes competitive Magic as great as it is. There's actually a lot of talk on Twitter about that right before we fired it up. It's ironic if you're on Twitter, the conversation is very much about that right now. What makes Magic special? These players have played against each other all season long, all year long. You fight tooth and nail to get out there. You fight tooth and nail for your testing. You fight tooth and nail to get your wins just to get here and be here. And so these players know each other. Some of them are friends, some of them aren't, some of them work together, some didn't. A lot of camaraderie involved and a lot more at stake than just money. You know, we bring up the prize slide and there's money on there for sure. I mean, money I wouldn't be happy to, I want that money too. But, there's also a lot more. We talk about Pro Tour invites, a re-invite to this event, which is so special. And just being able to be here, be on camera, be shown, and compete with the greats. That's really what competitive Magic's about. And this, I mean, you could not dilute it to more than what we have going on here. These exclusive events are so special.
No, it is very cool. Having a small event, the field, the formats, having multiple formats to prepare for. It's a lot. It's stressful, but it's fun. And that's kind of, I think that's what everyone that's qualified for this event and what a lot of people watching at home, that's what you choose to do. I mean, there's so many things, there's so many activities, so many hobbies that you can have and choose to spend your time on. And those of you at home watching and those are the players that are here and Drake and I this is what we choose. And we're happy to have you with us. We're happy to be able to share with you the exploits of the Midwest tournament scene, which is basically what Nerd Rage is. We're trying to reach the spreading geographically. I mean, we're not going too far because the crew does drive to the events for everything set up. So there's a kind of a limit. There's always requests. Oh, when are you coming to Florida? When are you coming to Oregon?
Oh my God.
That's not happening. It's not going to happen.
The people that are always like, oh, come to the West Coast. And then they have, whatever. It doesn't matter the organizer. If you have a West Coast event, you get like half the people and it's like twice as expensive to get out there. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like everybody clamors for one. And then it's just, nobody shows up because everything is just so spread out and, whatever. Yeah. Regions aside, I am fortunate to live, where I can drive to a lot of the events, NRG, of course, included in that mix. And I certainly would be competing, were I not here doing this with you. But
well, Drake, we don't have a Commander Championship at Nerd Rage.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could vie for it, right? Like what Commander they could be playing Commander as one of the events. It works great. And if you have like 4 pods, like if 4 people in a pod, you play like a pod game.
Quiet.
You don't
I need production. I need is any of the other commentators available? We can swap Drake out right now.
Joe, remind me sometime to explain to you the concept of mana bullying. I think you'll like that one a lot. I think that one will really resonate.
I'm aware of the concept of, I don't even know what it's called. I think I did at one point, like the helper decks that can't win. They just try and make the other decks have a good time.
No. It's in a different galaxy. I think legitimately, if I sat down and explained this to you, your mind would be blown. Like you would be just actually aghast at the concept because it is wild.
Well, I'm already aghast at that one. That's no,
fair enough. Yeah, you don't like a group hug deck. All right, that's fine. You know what, Joe? Commander, people talk a lot about that's what Magic's about. That's not what Magic's about. We just talked about it. Magic's about this right here.
Yeah, exactly.
These players, look how much time and care they're putting into the preparation for this match, talking about what formats to veto. I think it's not trivial when you're talking about what match you're comfortable and what players you're comfortable playing against. I mean, there's more than just the decks going on here. What you think your win percentage is. What do you think they're going to veto? How skilled do you think that pilot is with that deck versus that deck? Because these are all factors as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. It really could come down to anything. Some of these players maybe just have a format they're most comfortable with, and they're going to choose regardless of the opponent. I mean, that's probably, a less popular than just, this is going to be a bad matchup, right? I mean, even if and you're just going to be like, I don't want to play you could dig really deep into this, but at the most simple level, it's one of these 3 matchups is the worst for me.
Right.
Another one is the worst for you, and we'll play the third one, which should, in theory, and the reason why we're doing this is should give us the most competitive match out of the 3. 2 decks that are not going to just one's not just going to bowl the other one over. We should have actually a competitive match. That's the idea, and we'll see how it works out. We are getting ready to get underway here.
Looks like players have decks out, which would lead me to believe that a format has been selected. When you're dealing with a lot of what these players like, and you're talking about the NRG Championship, we've seen a lot of these faces before, obviously, especially if you've watched NRG coverage, you've definitely seen these players before. A lot of control decks here. So when you're talking about a bunch of, okay, well, the matchup would be mid-range versus mid-range, how can you really make a claim on, who's more favored and stuff like that? Some of the other matchups were more proactive or where there's clear hate cards. It's a lot more cut and dry. But I mean, some players registered like 3 control decks or whatever, 3 mid-range decks. And it's like, okay, where do I feel comfortable out mid-ranging? Am I on the player draw? Yeah, it's easy when there's a clear bad matchup. When everything's a pile of fair decks, it's like you have to really envision how that specific build's going to play out against your specific build. And I think that shows a lot about how hard it is to prepare for these events and how intimate these events are. You need to know, okay, I think even though you may have a slight advantage or it's about even, I think I can play this matchup better than you, even though it's close. And I think that is part of the equation, especially when you look at the decks that have been registered for our players here today.
No, sure. Yeah, a lot goes into that. And there may be even some thought, now that we're talking about this, I haven't really thought about this aspect of it before, that when you're registering your 3 decks, if you're going to get in stage 2 and stage 3, there's going to be vetoes. Maybe you want to have one of your 3 decks is kind of a mid-rangey deck, because if the two more extreme, if the polarized decks get vetoed, maybe you want to have something left over that's more mid-range.
Closer to even. Yeah. I think that it could impact. I mean, I think a lot of these players, like I said, especially with the standard format being the way it is, very mid-rangey, you're kind of going to end up there anyway. But there may be some players that, did gravitate that direction over, something else, just to guarantee they have a mid-range deck on the docket. That way, if they, they can't be that unfavored when it comes to veto time. And I think there is something to that. And obviously I didn't prepare for this event. Obviously I prepared for coverage for it, but really, it is half the fun is really preparing for these events, for what makes these events so special, because it is so intimate. Who you're playing against, what they like to play. It's like, how can you next level each other? How can you get ahead, especially when there's going to be so much fair magic played? Like, we've seen some of these players have played championships before. Some of them are newcomers, a lot of newcomers, but you can go back and look and see when they've been in similar spots where they really need to put it all on the line for a certain set of decks. What do they gravitate towards? You have information even from previous championship series events.
Yeah.
So.
All right, production. I see decks being presented. We need to know who we're watching. We need to know what format they're playing. Let's get this going.
Let's get the show on the road. I see a deck falling. Yeah, Daniel Weiser versus Matthew Weiss. The Weiss battle. Big Rakdos versus Esper Legends. I love it. Big
standard it will be. Okay, so let me get my...
Yeah, let's get the deck list up. Not that surprised. Like I said, no matter what, when you're talking about the other formats, there can be some really swingy matchups. But when you get down to standard, there's a pile of mid-range decks right now. So a lot of players, I would expect us to watch a lot of standard over these next few rounds, because it's just going to be the opportunity to get in the trenches and have a sloggy, fair matchup.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit as these players get started. Zayator's Proving Ground, Rafine's Tower Triumph for each player. Talk a little bit about kind of the big Rakdos. Rakdos mid-range have been a staple in standard for a while now. This big Rakdos deck goes even bigger, though. We're talking like Atali, Primal Conqueror, Trumpeting Carnosaur. There's even like some mana rocks in the form of like Iron Crag. Really only like 1 or 2 of those usually, if you can even really call it a mana rock. And then like, sometimes you see like big scores. We see 4 of them in Daniel Weiser's deck, just a second land passing the turn. No like Blood Tithe Harvester, stuff like that. We're actually just going big. That is what we're doing.
Right. This was something that was, there was some of this at the Standard Pro Tour, but it's just the big score into Atali, into Breach, into whatever. It's just so powerful. And it's really, that's what you're trying to do, is just completely demolish what the other person is trying to do. However, counter magic can obviously play back against that big score. Walking into a counter is not a fun time.
Yeah, 3 of those in Matthew Weiss's deck in the form of Make Disappear. So those, I expect those to be quite good, as the Subterranean Schooner going to be in play alongside Shieldred. Going to pick off the Shieldred, which I believe prevents this creature from exploring.
Yeah.
So go for the throw. Going to take care of the Shieldred. Going to have 3 damage coming across anyway as we go back to Daniel Weiser. Yeah, if we're talking about standard being a mid-range soup, it's not that surprising to see someone like Daniel make a pretty good call, in my opinion, and play a mid-range deck that goes over the top of the other mid-range decks. if that's what this format's about, that's what he's done a great job doing, is Cavern of Souls likely naming something that cast Shieldred, going to be able to get out from underneath those counter spells pretty well.
Yeah, so Shieldred coming to play, and Shieldred against this Esper Legends deck is such a beating. I mean, it's not in play right now, but Rafine's attack trigger is so powerful, and you really can't do that in the face of Shieldred without taking just a ton of damage.
Yeah, being able to shut down Rafine is a lot of, I think, what the mid-range matchup's going to be about against the Legends deck. We see some Esper mid-range stuff that gravitates sometimes towards Gix and stuff like that. Legends has been more of a fixture for Standard as time has gone on, and this is a little bit more of a traditional look. We're talking about like Dinnick, Lauren, Lord Skitter, all that kind of stuff. Still supporting the 4 copies of Deep Cavern Bat, but we've seen some decks kind of move away from the Legend-specific builds. Matthew Weiss choosing to stick with it. 4 copies of Rafine going to look good, as Lauren's going to come into play and get to work crewing this Subterranean Schooner. Come across for 3. Lauren gets to explore.
Well, we'll see if it does this time. Yeah, and Daniel, I mean, only...
Maybe not. Cut down. No explorers for you.
Daniel with missing some land drops, only 4 land. I mean, like 4 land seems like a decent amount, but this deck, like Drake was saying, this deck goes very high on the curve. So
Shieldred make disappear and a land the leftovers from Matthew Weiss. I mean, a good set of cards. Shieldred being able to, obviously crew, and like you said, just kind of one of the trump cards, I think, in these mid-range matches in general. I mean, people talk about Shieldred and the cards like whatever. It's been like $100 in Standard forever. Every deck needs like 3 to 4 of them, and is going to be a defining feature of these Standard matchups, including this one. As we'll see if Daniel found a land. A lot of spells left in hand to cut down among others, but a 5th land. I mean, we're talking about a big Rakdos. We need mana and a lot of it. 4 lands is not going to be enough to get the job done.
And yet, at the moment, able to, not be under a big threat, able to not be punished. And
it's kind of a question, should you be doing anything at all? Like, if Shieldred's allowed to start exploring, that can be problematic. And like, this make disappear that Matthew Weiss kind of is representing with these 2 Rafine's Towers that are up, and is also just the best card for him to have right here, could start to destroy you if you start trying to play stuff. And so, yeah, I really love the discipline from Daniel here. A lot of cards in hand. We've seen this before. He just starts like threatening to move to discard, missing land drops, and finds a way to win anyway. This is part of the secret, I guess, is just miss your land drops and just have all great spells. Why would you mulligan when you have all these good spells?
Okay, so let's...
A wedding announcement? Was that the draw?
Yeah.
That's
wedding announcement, Shieldred, make disappear.
Is leading on the wedding announcement. Not going to see any counter spells from the big Rakdos deck. Probably, I have to imagine this is one of the best cards you can really have here. Does a great job slogging through these 1-for-1s, and is going to make creatures that can crew the schooner every turn, basically. But big score.
Yeah,
the card.
This hurts, and this is something. It's conceivable Daniel was holding this, not wanting to cast it into a potential make disappear, and now he just can't wait anymore, and it is going to find one.
Yeah, and it's a good makes disappear too. It gets burned down the house with it, just on the cast recording, discarding a card. And over to Daniel we go. Big score didn't work. Shields are down though for Weiss. Not going to have another make disappear with only 1 mana, only 1 card in hand as well. We'll see if Daniel can capitalize. Cut down on the token is not something you're excited about, but once again, he's done such a good job from preventing the schooner from being able to explore with creatures and allow Matthew to start controlling his draw, maybe drawing extra lands, and just begin to get ahead. It's 4 mana pulled aside very quickly for Shieldred.
Yeah, well, without the make disappear to hold up mana for now, and this Matthew could wait another turn for another token to be able to try and crew the schooner, but he's just going to go for it now with Shieldred, and Shieldred's going to die also. So the schooner has attacked 3 times, and there's been no explore triggers yet.
Has not explored once. I mean, but the damage is still being done, right? Like you're talking about, he's done a good job controlling the explorers. At some point, Daniel's going to have to get something on the board, or this schooner is just going to go the distance with damage. And with Daniel at 11, I mean, he's done a good job using his life total as a resource, picking off all the cards that matter. Cannot find a 5th land. No. And back to Matthew we go, who seems to be flooding out, but doesn't matter as long as they got the schooner as it gets fired up thanks to the token from wedding announcement. All right, we're doing this again. I love the posture change there. Can I explore, please? And we can. Darkslick Shore is going to go to hand. No counter, but 3 more damage rolling across. And finally, the schooner gets to draw a card. I think the window is closing for Daniel Weiser soon, especially with a second copy of Wedding Announcement being added to the board here.
All right. So what is
So
Daniel
tough.
even hoping for now? I mean, this is
Another big score.
yeah. I mean, I thought that last turn that you if you had another one, you would fire it off to try and get into the deeper part of the curve, but it's just not there for him. And I mean, we kind of seen. I mean, there's I guess a shielder would be good.
I think he's had a shield drip for a while. Been holding up mana though.
Okay.
Not sure clear. Oh, it's trumpeting Carnosaur is what we're doing with this turn. Gonna pick off one of the tokens. Yeah, one of the tokens. And back to Daniel we go. We'll see if he even finds a land. Burn Down the House has represented the potential to clear the board for a while now. Discarded one early to a big score. Finds Restless, I believe, Vents.
All right.
Restless Vents, yes. Restless
yeah.
Vents. And back over to Matthew Weiss we go. Cruise, Subterranean Schooner, an attack for 4. Am I allowed to explore? Says Matthew Weiss. Yeah, we have one that can attack, one that's crude, and these are bigger now. Would be an attack for 6 if it happens.
Go for the throat. Wow. Really showing its vulnerability here, not being able to kill artifacts. Jeez.
I'm sure he would have, Daniel would have loved to kill this schooner and has not been able to. Doing kind of a smuggler's copter impression, I'd say.
I mean, it's up 2 cards now. It found it. I mean, even though the first several draws were kind of thwarted by removal, now has found 2 lands off the top. It just he got to avoid. I mean, he's floating out like you're saying, but he's got to avoid 2 draws. And the Plaza of Heroes, while not currently relevant, certainly can be at some point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if we find another legend in the Esper Legends deck, we're there. And Daniel just doesn't even find a 5th land, and that's going to do it. So big Rakdos, supposed to go big, not able to there in game number 1. Matthew Weiss able to pick up a pretty convincing victory off of the back of that Subterranean Schooner. An impressive showing from that card. Only 2 copies in his deck. Looked insane there.
Yeah, it looked good, and the wedding announcements were good, and we could have predicted that. And Daniel just unable to get much going. So game 1 in the battle of the Weiss named people goes to Matthew. Let's go ahead and put some deck lists up for you to see entirely what these players are working with. Remember, this match, this is not an elimination match. You have to lose. This is a double elimination. So even the loser here is still in the event. And we can see here the big Rakdos deck as it is named. Plenty of removal, plenty of big stuff. Big Score, is that a card you board out here just because it's so vulnerable to counter magic? I mean, it seems
yeah, maybe
possible.
The Esper Legends deck has a lot of counter magic they can bring in typically. So cutting down on some of that and maybe making your deck a little bit lower to the ground. These duresses might be appealing if you're scared of things like the schooner, things like the wedding announcements, or just the counter spells. I think reaching for the discard spells makes a lot of sense. Getting lower to the ground, not getting destroyed by the counter spells, like you kind of called out. I think those are going to be the biggest parts of the equation for me. Though individual removal spells, you can take them or leave them. I don't think they look that good. And the Alkazats, another way to kind of get a little bit lower to the ground if you want to trim some of the bigger stuff. But in general, I think the duresses are the ones you really want to highlight for this matchup. Being able, even though there's a lot of creatures in this Legends deck, the spells are a big part of what makes this kind of tough for Daniel in some spots because of all the counter magic that is there in the main deck and can come in.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and look at Matthew Weiss's Esper Legends mid-range deck. You see here with the I saw that Deep Cavern Bat actually in standard results is the most played card in the format right now, which is kind of wild.
Power Crop Mesmeric Fiend.
yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's good. You're right. Mesmeric Fiend boosted into the air. And lots of we see the virtues in both decks here. Single copy of Virtue of Persistence in Daniel's deck and 4 Virtue of Loyalty in Matthew's deck. And it really having flash creatures obviously lets you combine that very well with counter magic and be much more effective because your opponent doesn't know you're just holding up counter magic all the time because you have creatures. You could be holding up stuff for any sort of reason. As far as sideboarding here goes for Matthew Weiss, counter magic is fairly good against when your opponent's spending 5, 6, 7 mana on their threats. And there's Disdainful Strokes, there's Negates, there are duresses on this side also, and there's Tishana's Tidebinder, one of the main one in the board. Can that find
Atali is probably the biggest target there. I mean, just being able to shut that thing. I mean, it's still big, Obviously you can hit like Trumpeting Carnosaur. Shieldreds are great targets as well. I mean, if you're just talking about the stifle effect, though, that is the strongest ETB going on. I have to imagine, like I said, just holding up mana is going to be a big part of Matthew Weiss's plan, I think. And the fact it's a flash threat on its own is probably good enough to warrant bringing that one in, and much less how good it actually is against the rest of the deck, which I think is actually quite good. And then you get to choose your counter spells, right? You got Disdainful Strokes. You can choose Negates if you want, although I do think those are a little bit worse. You could do like Duresses if you're concerned about a pile of spells, but I don't know really that's where you want to be. Because like I said, I think in large part, you already have the Deep Cavern backs to kind of get a look at the opponent's hand. You got a lot of counter magic to cover what the opponent's got going on. You can kind of turn into, I hate to say it, kind of like a tempo deck in this matchup, knowing that Daniel Weisser's the bigger deck, and you can just kind of get underneath them. And kind of like what we did there, even with something as innocuous as like a Subterranean Schooner, you can just kind of get under Daniel Weisser if he stumbles a little bit, and counter spells really add to that ability to make your opponent stumble.
No, as we head back down the table for game 2 here, this Esper Legends deck, I mean, it's not, I feel like on paper, the most impressive thing in the world, but it just works. And we didn't even see kind of the namesake cards that time. We didn't see Rafine, and it just works.
I'm not even confident Rafine, like, it's one of the best cards in your deck, but I'm not even confident it's 100% the best card in this matchup. Because, like, some of these sticky threats, I mean, we saw Wedding Announcement. That card looked incredible. Obviously, a lot of things are going to look great when Daniel Weisser's just stumbling, can't play a 5th land. But I would imagine some of these cards that kind of just snowball on their own, thinking of like Lord Skitters, Wedding Announcements, things like that, are actually going to be secretly some of your best cards in the matchup. If you can back up, if you can untap with some of that and just put some counter magic up, like, you've got to feel in a pretty good spot against this big Rakdos deck, which is pretty unlikely, especially pre-board, to double spell you in a turn, and even more so when they're not hitting land drops.
No, their double spelling is going to consist of like Atali hitting something else.
Cast your spell and my spell. There's your double spell.
Trumpeting Carnosaur, Discover. That's their version of double spelling. But okay, we're underway. Looked like Daniel Weiser kept immediately. Matthew Weiss thought about his hand for quite a while before choosing to keep as well.
Let's see why. We got a Duress, pile of lands, Rafine, Shieldred, and a Tishana's Tidebinder. It's a lot of lands. 2, 3, 4 lands. 4 lands, 3 creatures. I think this Duress misses.
Yeah. Well,
that's brutal.
Yeah, it is. That's tough. That's a tough way for Daniel to start, and probably could have gone Swamp Dress in turn 1. There's nothing to worry about there. I'll just wait until turn 2 and misses anyway.
I wonder if part of the consideration for keeping this hand is like, these spells are fine, but most importantly, I think Duress is the best card Daniel can bring in against me, and it blanks it. I wonder if that's like this exact interaction is a big part of the consideration for Matthew Weiss keeping this hand. No,
that would be reasonable. This is dodging Duress. I mean, they're all coming in. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, this sounds great. This getting on the board is what's going to matter for Matthew. These creatures are
Cavern Bat, the draw, another creature, and a great one to have right now. And bam, there it is. Joe's like, I didn't see that one. What gives? All right, fine. 2 Brotherhood's Ends, a Go for the Throat, and a card that I could never guess. It is a black blob in Takanuma, of course. Probably a land. Some of those, looks like a rare of some kind. Haunted Ridge is my guess. But
that sounds reasonable. Yeah. So if it's removal either way.
Yeah, either way. I think you want to take the Go for the Throat and make him use a more expensive removal spell.
Yeah, as long as you don't have a follow-up for next turn that you would.
True. We know about a Tidebinder and a Shieldred, but so does Daniel Weisser. So like the information's face up for both players as far as what each player's working with. So what matters? The Brothers at the Ends can't kill the Shieldred or the Rafine, and maybe that's take one of them, but there's still just another one you can use. Yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and take Go for the Throat, make him use 3 mana to kill this bat if that's something he wants to do, which I imagine he will. Once the Rafine or whatever comes down, you need to Go for the Throat that. So I think we're going to see a Brothers at the End here, and we sure will. That's going to take care of the bat, give the Go for the Throat back, and honestly, not a bad exchange for Matthew Weiss.
No, I mean, trades up on mana. If he can continue developing here, should be fine. Although, his next play is likely to get picked off by the Go for the Throat.
But there's only one Go for the Throat, and there's a Rafine and a Shieldred. Those are 2 cards that do not die to Brothers at the End, that do die to Go for the Throat. And actually, Denik.
Okay.
Saying it correct. 2/3 lifelink cards. The graveyard cannot be the target spells or abilities. Has Disturb. Nice little 2-for-1 available. And something that does that at Brotherhood's End and Go for the Throat. Don't really want to use either of those on it, to be honest.
No, you certainly don't. And but the Rafine is going to make it irritating. Daniel's target is going to be would want to be the Rafine. So maybe if you're Matthew, you follow up with Shieldred and then Rafine the following turn, and then you get to attack and connive.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of just a game of what can get my Rafine to live.
Yeah.
As we move over to Matthew Weiss's turn, we know he's got lands for days. He's not going to miss one of those. Deep Cavern, bat the draw. Okay. So now we could do like Rafine bat on turn 5 if we do want to just deploy Shieldred into the Go for the Throat mana, which looks not that bad. Mm-hmm. Although Daniel is hitting all of his land drops and is eventually going to start playing some very impactful 6-7 mana spells. So you are under some pressure to get this game over with. And we're going to go ahead and bat now. Take a look. This one probably has to hit the second Brotherhood's end though, because now there's two things.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does. And now this means Matthew doesn't have another play for this turn, which is not thrilling, I would say.
You do get a little bit of a bluff. There's been 2 or 3 draw steps. I think maybe 1 unknown card.
Yeah.
So you can kind of bluff some counter spells if you want to run it, but it's not that realistic. And I don't think it changes the way Daniel Weiser is going to play either way. But yeah, for the most part, just using your 2 mana spell with your 4 mana doesn't feel great, but it does kind of put Daniel under the gun as far as how he wants to use this Go for the Throat. Trumpeting Carnosaur was the pickup. We're a land short of that right now from what we see. Got 4 lands of play, Takanuma in hand. Not that unrealistic to find a land in 2 steps, and also functions as a removal spell. If we want to pick off the bat and take that direction, just kill all the creatures and get into top deck mode.
This is... Yeah, I don't blame Matthew from taking a moment here to ponder this.
I think it still just has to be the end, though. You can't let him get a 2-for-1, right?
Right. No, I don't
it's
think
not that much of a 2-for-1 if Denick flips.
I mean, if you take Go for the Throat, then Daniel doesn't really get to use his mana for the turn, but I don't think that's a very much of an advantage. Because if you take...
Yeah, I mean, untaps and Brotherhood's ends.
Yeah,
and
so
it's all your mana.
Right. I mean, he doesn't use his mana. You lose a card. That's not a good deal either.
Yeah, I see Daniel kind of acknowledging, that's basically what you have to take. Doing one more check. We do know about... I mean, I think Daniel knows about a lot of these cards. I think it's 1 unknown, and it's like Tidebinder, Shieldred, and Rafine, the same cards he was working with from the very beginning. And... a big thing here from Matthew Weiss. Like I said, I can't blame him. I do think the Brotherhood's end is where he's going to have to land, but maybe the answer is not. I mean, you want him to use the Go for the Throat, but I don't think there's a way to force that with the Trumpeting Carnosaur.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, that would be the reason to play the Shieldred. So okay, he's going to do that. Attack through for a 4 life total swing, and then.
We'll see if Daniel wants to do any Go for the Throat Carnosaur action. He might just want to not act. Like, the pressure's not that high yet. Yeah, I don't hate this at all. Just hold all of your stuff and just see what comes. Like, we're getting into the territory where there's just you can start playing bigger stuff. You're not actually under enough pressure that the cards in play are going to be better than whatever you're going to play in 1 or 2 turns. Just hold your stuff and wait for the scary cards that you know are there.
Right. I mean, Daniel knows what this Go for the Throat wants to kill, and it's not the creatures on the board. So Matthew trying to bait Daniel into doing that, and Daniel says, no, okay, I'll play the Takanuma. And
I'll play that one. Definitely hit it. We found our 5th land this game, so we're already looking better.
And if you can find one more, then
Wedding announcement, the draw. I think that's a huge draw here with Brotherhood. It would incentivize the Brotherhood's end to be cast, which would incentivize a removal spell on the bat, which I think is actually a great exchange for Matthew.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this will pick up a card. Yeah, this is very nice for Matthew. You're right about that. So he'll, by playing a post-combat.
Well, I mean, he could still hold up, man. There's a lot of options here. I think this turn's really tough. I do like the Wedding announcement the most, but there's an argument to like Tidebinder if you think that Weiser's going to find a land. There's an argument to like Shieldred if you just want to put additional pressure on. But I think all these things are mostly worse than Wedding announcement, which is going to go ahead and get a counter, get a card. We attacked with 2 things. And now Daniel has to decide if he wants. Oh, to Make Disappear was picked up.
Oh, geez.
That is such a good draw. What a series of draws from Matthews. Here's the Carnosaur. No, thank you, says Matthew Weiss. And Weisser's just like, yeah, I mean, fair enough. There's Make Disappear. Catalyst, you pay 2. Got him.
Yeah, now.
Wow. And another bat picked up. Jeez, runners.
So Rafine, with double. I mean, he was going to draw into the good anyway here now with 2 connive triggers.
2 connives. I mean,
or
I was
one
getting
connive trigger
bigger
for
with this.
X for 2.
Sure. And you can start to slap that on things, that aren't going to die to the Brotherhood's end, and things are just getting really, really rough for Daniel Weiser. Brutal sequence here from Matthew, but honestly, kind of the way Matthew Weiss drew it up. If you're going to keep a hand of lands and some creatures to blank duresses, this is about as good as it gets. Draw your bloody announcements and your make disappears right on time. Have your creatures just start to go to work and make the removal spells awkward. Awesome play from Matthew Weiss, and really paid off for the keep. I like this a lot. Thinking about what to discard. Another wedding announcement, Bat, and Tidebinder among the mix of caps, which would imply discarding the Shieldred, which I certainly don't hate. Shieldred and Deserted Beach.
That's expensive. He's
just.
I mean, he doesn't need expensive threats right now. He's doing well as it is. Yeah. Okay. Here's the bat.
You go for the throat and a land. All right. Daniel Weiss is saying, all right, can I get some top of the deck action? What can I get? Oh, yeah. The wedding announcement, he announced that we're speeding through things. And what did Weiser pick up? Didn't get a great look.
I mean, a land and a 7-drop. Atali would be good.
Atali would be great. Burn down the house would also be pretty good.
Oh, yeah,
kill all the creatures. There's some good ones.
And there's a lot of...
Doing a lot of
garbage.
thinking.
I mean, a targeted removal spell. Okay.
That's what it is. Go for the throw.
Yeah. Ew, that doesn't...
kills the other bat, which gives you your other go for the throat back, but you're killing the worst creatures on the board.
All right, and now
good.
He plays the lance. Yeah, I know. Now he has to go for the throats. Now he can kill.
Oh boy! And Plaza picked up, which can protect the Rafine.
Yeah.
Oy, oy, oy. I mean, we're in it. I mean, Daniel still has some really powerful. I mean, big rectos. We still got some powerful draws. Not out of it, but still definitely a tough spot. As here comes Rafine and Dennick pre-combat. Going to go ahead and pick off the Dennick with the go for the throat. Love this. Just protect your life total and try to shut down some of the action Matthew's got going on here. Don't see any counter spells, but maybe you can use Plaza. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, yeah, it looks like it. I mean, defend that. Push. Let's see which creature. One you can put one. If you have 2 non-lands to discard, you can put one of the creatures outside the range of burn down the house.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, I don't even know that you want to discard these spells. You might just be fine against burn down the house as it is. Yeah. You just drawing all these cards. It's all land among the mix.
You're picking up another card from the wedding announcement at the end of the turn as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is just a tough sequence for Weiser. And he drew okay. I mean, a target removal spell at the top of the deck, not a bad draw, but still this Rafine able to start to clock in and go to work after all the slog and the kind of the exchange from the hand early on. I think I saw a Restless Anchorage in there as well. Curious who's going to hold on to that. Chooses not to.
Yeah, decision made though. Okay, I can already survive Brotherhood's end on both guys. They don't need to be more than that. So we'll just...
Yeah, if you have a target removal spell, whatever. I got a wedding announcement that's going to draw me a card and is going to flip, and then I have another one in hand already. I mean, in a great spot. Daniel drew a blank, and it looks like that's... Oh. He was untapping.
Yeah,
oh my God.
All right, Matt. That's... we've all done that, right?
Yeah, well, he's just nothing in place. So when he picked up all his lands to untap, he's like, oh, you're scooping? That's fair. Nope, not scooping, says Daniel Weiser. Draw a card. That was going to be the 3rd counter on the wedding announcement, so it's going to flip. I think we're going to get there pretty quick. Yeah, all we did was activate Plaza that turn, and the Plaza was untapped. This looks correct. Yeah, there's outs.
No, there are. I mean, Atali can do crazy stuff.
All right, and then we can check the cards in hand, but I think everything that's in the graveyard is supposed to be there. And a draw step from Weiser. It's Atali!
Oh!
Okay! All right! This is how it starts.
No counter.
And there's nothing, no recourse in Matthew's hand.
Iron Crag
to find, not great. Wedding announcement of his own, not bad. Rafine can still attack uncontested. Only 2 points of damage right now, though.
Yeah.
And we're going to make a 1-1. Okay, well, Atali showed up right on time. Wow, what a draw. And here's the Virtue of Loyalty. Going to go ahead, or whatever the spell version of that is. And Ardenvale Fealty. Going to go ahead and make a 2-2. And then the Virtue is going to be on an adventure as we go over to Matthew Weiss. Shake of his head there. Yeah, what a draw for Daniel Weiser. We'll see how Matthew can respond.
Daniel might need another one, though. Another something. So he's got 8 mana available. I think it costs 9 to transform a Tali.
That's correct. Yeah, 9 and like a Phyrexian, so he needs 2 life.
Yeah. He's getting close to not having that either. I guess there's 3 attackers now. So if Matthew wants to go in with everything, the Rafine could actually grow and connect for, I guess, max 4. No, 5. Wedding Announcements is flipped. It's wedding.
Right.
What's the backside? Wedding Festivities. So it'd be for 5.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's attack for 5. It's an anthem either way. A glorious anthem.
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. All right. Matthew Weiss, with even after discarding, will have a very full grip here. So could actually probably grow. I assume the Rafine is what is targeted here, since it's the only one that's actually getting through. And was it all lands again? It looks like it was. So Matthew's going to keep the goods in hand and not pressure damage. Daniel's life total is dropping anyway. And are we awaiting blockers here? Or is there Matthew holding before? No, okay, here we go. Blockers looks like they're being declared now. And predictably done here. Atali will eat. Actually, well, okay, Dennick's going to survive. Atali's going to eat the Vigilance. Sorry, I lost track there a moment because I think I lost Drake. But the 2 counters went on the token for Matthew. And the board is not completely out of reach for Daniel's deck at this point, barring more counter magic. And I guess he does have his wedding announcements still ticking up also on his own side. Matthew at 36 life, 36 to 5. We'll call this an uphill battle for Daniel Weiser. And whatever the draw was for the turn, which I have not caught sight of, it wasn't an autoplay like the Atali last turn. Also, the board is more convoluted now. And Daniel's not actually, he's not dead on the board still, even on the next turn. Barring a flash creature for Matthew, which is, now that I think about it, not unlikely. And Daniel does pass the turn, make a token at the end step. Another Virtue Knight comes in. And this isn't quite enough. Tasha's Tidebinder, end of turn. Perhaps there's a reason why that didn't eat the wedding announcements token. I'm not clear on what that might be, but maybe there is one. As we untap here for Matthew Weiss, trying to finish this game off, trying to finish this match off and pick up the first of the 2 wins that these players will need to get through to Sunday morning. Four attackers is a lot of Rafine triggers. So if Daniel has nothing, then the Rafine itself could win the game with 4 spells discarded. But that is walking into some real danger if there's a removal spell. So he may not want to do that, and I wouldn't fault him for that at all, for not going for that. He's pressing a pretty significant advantage here anyway.
Can you hear me, Joe?
I can.
Heck yeah. Maybe I'm back.
All right.
Everything just crashed. I just had to change computers entirely, so apologies to all the viewers. Never seen that happen before. Not great. Gonna have to figure out what's going on. But either way, I should be back for at least the temporary moment.
I mean,
it looks like things got worse.
Most people don't have a backup computer sitting right next to them to switch into, so good on you being prepared.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
guess. Prepare for disaster or whatever.
All right. So where we're at here is Matthew's on the attack here. He's conniving with Rafine for 4.
That seems hard to beat.
Yeah. And there's Daniel does have a card in hand that is unknown to both Matthew and viewers. Rafine with with 3 triggers, actually. I said 4, but it's actually only 3 because of wedding festivities. But they're going on the token again. So Matthew is giving Daniel no excuses to kill the Rafine. There's a removal spell, and Daniel has nothing, and that will do it. So
it's just such a tough slog.
Yeah, it was. It was really bad. And that Atali needed to be very strong, and it was not. I mean,
when you cast down the house the best in Iron Crag, probably among the weakest. Wedding Announcement can at least put forth some blockers, maybe get some cards where things really improve. But then you're looking at needing to draw out of it. That's not, even not realistic from there. So Atali, a great draw, came right on time, needed additional help, didn't have it. Matthew Weiss able to seal it, and I think what was maybe like a textbook execution for Matthew Weiss. I mean, really, really clean stuff, and about how we expected things could go with the right draw. Yeah,
this Ezra Legends deck is just, it's able to kind of adapt to what your opponent is doing. You have expensive stuff, I have counters and flash stuff. If you have cheap stuff, I have aggro and I have blockers and lifelink, and you just kind of like roll with it and see how the games develops, how the matchups go, and it seems very strong. All right. Backup match is about to start game 2. We're going to go there live. So no need for pre-recorded stuff here, even though it says time shift on the screen. We'll try and get that taken off. Theo Zhang versus Kyle Gonzalez. We have a Legends non-mirror, more or less.
4-color versus Esper, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, still sounds like a mirror to me, but take a look real quick.
One of the features of the 4-color decks without Kyle Gonzalez's deck list right in front of me at the moment is the Slugurk package, which can do a lot of work in longer games. Is that the right name? I think it's Slugurk.
That's Slugurk, the Overslime.
Yeah. Which can make channel lands even better than they already are in these Legends decks, as you can recur them. But Kyle is going to lose a card here on a mulligan, at least one.
I guess it makes Inti look very impressive too. I mean, when you're talking about, whatever, the Theo's deck, mostly Esper oriented, whereas not white cards, I think, at all in Kyle Gonzalez's Esper deck. We're reaching instead for like Relic of Legends Rona stuff that you don't really see present in Theo's deck at all. And so, a very different texture, despite both being Legends deck, looking to accomplish very different things. As here is kind of that face of this deck, I'd say, turn 2 Rona. Able with Relic, just you can start powering out a bunch of Legends and cheat on mana quite a bit. Be some impressive stuff.
All right. Kyle Gonzalez actually mulled to 5 this game and is down a game overall. So going to have some work to do here. And the bat's going to grab, looks like the only option.
Yeah, I didn't see a ton of options.
But those 2 lands can convert into other things. That's what Rona does. So
true as well.
Kyle not as maybe stuck as it would appear.
Can't get a great look. I think that's a Glissa Sunslayer that was exiled with Deep Cavern Bat. So getting that back could be worth quite a bit. One of the lands does have the discard bin. Kyle does play a 3rd land just to pass the turn back. No Legend to untap Rona, as the Bat's going to go to work and finally start getting some attacking done, gain some life, go for the throat on Rona. Going to be fired off right away. You're going to respond by using the fact we have a Legend to cheat out the Sokenzen activation, which is going to make 2 1/1 colorless spirit tokens that get haste until end of turn. And we're looking to get those tokens right now, and then Rona's going to go ahead and hit the bin.
Haste until end of turn. Why can't they just keep haste? I mean, they should be able to block a Gingerbread. It's not fair. They have to.
It's more on a track. I have to imagine it's a tracking thing where it's like you can attack now, but you don't have to remember that these tokens have haste or whatever.
I guess.
Beat down for 1 is the Deep Cavern Bat, able to kind of win the race in the face of these, and Shieldred really good at winning races. Going to need a lot more than 2 1/1 colorless spirits to beat down that one. 2 damage for Kyle. Something like Urtai Resurrected, probably among the best draws here. Obviously, 3 copies go for the throat in the deck as well. Like draw any of those. Beseju's not any of those. And untapping with Shieldred is Theo, and things are not looking good for Kyle Gonzalez.
No, they sure are not. I mean, it's tough. You're down 2 cards. Your opponent curves out, has a solid hand of Bat into go for the throat into Shieldred, and you're left with not a lot to work with, and the clock ticking.
pile of cards in hand, among which I think an Anoint with Affliction, just a removal spell ready to go. Odoar and Instep to go ahead and try to bounce that. Yeah, we can go ahead and activate this Plaza. That's something we want to do. Or we can Urtai to go ahead and counter that. You get another card for your trouble at least, but you take some damage. And yeah, this is just, I mean, this is so brutal.
All right.
Cut down, going to take care of the bat.
Nice. The Kyle got to spend the mana before untapping here. And now with Glissa and looks like a Plaza of Heroes. Okay. I can hold the ground.
Yeah. That can do some amount of work.
Glissa is hard to get through.
Yeah, she's good in combat. First Strike and Death Touch, a potent combination of keywords. And Shieldred obviously doesn't really need to be attacking in order to get the work done, but it certainly helps. And there's the Anoint with Affliction we saw earlier. Going to get that Glissa out the way. Beep, beep, says the rest of the cards that attack for 7. Going to do some chump blocking, but Kyle, once again, up against the gun as Priest of the Schism. Creature of the Schism added to the mix. And this is new pickup from Lost Caverns that has quickly made its dominant performance here in Standard, as Takanuma is going to go ahead and get channeled. That's going to find Rona. We're going to put Rona in play. We have a Go for the Throat. That's going to do it for the match. Theo, dominant performance over the 4-card Legends on a low mulligan. Tough.
Yeah, that was pretty lopsided. So both matches that we had on camera, both chose Standard. Both not the most competitive games we've seen today, but
you promised me competitive games, Joe.
I said in theory that's what's supposed to happen. Anyway,
sure.
All right. So those players will move on to the second of the 3 matches. Theo looking for a win in the next 2 to lock up day 2, along with Matthew Weiss. And then Daniel Weiser looking for got to win 2 in a row. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the schedule before we break here. You can see the upcoming events. February, April, May, and June. Chicago, Minneapolis, Indianapolis, and St. Louis. Pioneer, Modern, we even threw in a Legacy event, as well as the team trios. So if any of these events tickles your fancy, you're interested, make your way out. Build up those points, pick up the showdown victories for auto qualifications for the end of the year championship. Otherwise, the at-large points are available, and really just solid prizes and good times at all the events anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also take a look at the stage 2 structure. We haven't really gone over that in detail yet, I don't think, or well, at least not in the last hour. So this is where we are now. The 8 players that are in this stage, again, 4 advance straight to Sunday, 4 are out. That leaves 8 playing right now. They'll play up to 3 matches. If you win 2, you advance. If you lose 2, you're out. The only complicated part comes from the seeding, and we're not going to bother explaining that. But that's where we're at. That's what these players are going through. So we've got 2 more rounds left today. Whether they are Standard, Pioneer, or Modern remains to be seen. I'm Joe Lissette, joined by Drake Sasser, representing Nerd Rage Gaming. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So if you average all our downtimes together, they're really not that bad because this one's pretty short. Drake Sasser and Jill Lissette back for our second match of stage 2, double elimination. We're going to feature 2 tables where the players are on the verge of elimination. They all lost last round. So we're going to have on the backup, Grayson Nemitz versus Kyle Gonzalez on the Amulet Mirror. They chose to play Modern. And I can nearly promise you right now, you're not going to see any of that because the primary match is the Yorion Mirror between Daniel Weiser and Derek Davis.
Such optimism.
They chose Pioneer, and they're also playing a mirror. They chose this, keep in mind.
Yeah.
And if you were family, friends, loved ones of Grayson Nemitz and Kyle Gonzalez, I
Maybe
anticipate
we'll have time. Maybe we'll just get lands. Daniel Weiser has done a great job at not drawing lands for a lot of the tournament we have watched. If he continues that trend, this may be faster than you're alluding to.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's conceivable if Daniel makes his most of 3 makes 1 land drop. Derek might kill him in 15 minutes, but
the speed.
we'll see. So we do have the amulet mirror on the backup. And we'll see how this gets going. But this is players looking at each other's deck lists right now. This is lose and you're out stage of the event. We are in the elimination territory, so stakes are higher for Daniel Weiser.
I'm shocked that are here already, right? Like, these are 2 players that coming into the event, I think the general temperature from your power rankings, I don't know if we can pull those up right now while the players are reviewing deck lists, but if you just take a look at the power rankings, both your opinion, the ELO rankings, all those things aggregated, these are players that you would predict would do well. I know there's no any kind of stake any way that way or another beforehand, but I mean, Daniel Weiser, you mentioned 13th in the ELO, like, a lot of people had a lot of high expectations for this player coming off of these big wins to come in, get the job done here. Now back against the wall. We've seen some unfortunate luck as far as finding land drops, but I mean, just not somebody you would expect to be in this position.
Yeah, and Derek Davis also highly ranked. Also notable, there are 4 players in this event already qualified for Pro Tour Chicago. This is 2 of them.
Sure. These less on the line for winning the event than others potentially, but a lot of money on the line, and of course the re-invite to the NRG Championship cannot be understated. A huge win as well. Yeah, you can see 4th, I think 5th overall. Like, these 2 players in the upper echelon from expectations. Derek able to claw his way back into this event again after, as you mentioned, kind of getting beat up a little bit last time. A little bit of a better performance maybe here, but still has some work to do.
But yeah, and like a little bit because he barely squeaked into out of stage 1 as well. But we are underway here in this Yorion mirror. Both players playing 80 cards. Well, I guess I don't know. Going +1 is the thing now. On the backup table, they're both playing 61. Are these 2 both playing 81? I don't know. I wasn't.
Sure. Let's take a look. All right, let's do a quick check. Both players have registered 95, so that's 80 in the main, 15 on the side. However, as you mentioned, both players, of course, in the backup registered 76s. So that's that is the stage of Magic the Gathering as we know it. 60s are for nerds. Nobody plays that. Only 40s. 40s for limited, I guess. Only 61s and 80s here as Omen of the Sea going to be the first play for Daniel Weiser. A great card for hitting land drops, so that's already an improvement over what we've seen so far.
That is true. That's good news for him. Let's see. Let me take a quick look here. Are we playing identical decks? We are not. There are differences.
Not
slight differences in counter magic. I believe Daniel has a rewind. Derek does not.
Yeah. Not a ton of differences. Like the number of Narsets main versus side. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this is as close to a complete mirror match as you'd expect. And unlike Modern, where you see the Yori and Azorius control and all the mess we talked about with Roger earlier, these decks actually true Azorius. Only blue-white. No leyline binding considerations, weirdo triumphs, anything like that. As here is a big attempt, Wandering Emperor, likely on end step. Jawari Disruption going to take care of that one. That one worth a land sometimes. You saw multiple copies of Doman's Veto in Derek's hand. Notably, looking to cash out that Jawari Disruption sooner rather than later speaks to having the next land drop dialed up at the very least as we go back to Daniel's turn.
And also just puts the lock on, this next turn, whatever Daniel might attempt to do. And it's going to be a Jawari Disruption as a land. Jawari, is that Jawari Ruins? Is I'm not sure the name. And here's a Deluge.
Jawari Ruins, you nailed it. Memory Deluge and Instep. That one's not going to eat a counter. Only just a Glacial Fortress and pass from Derek. So hitting land drops. Deluge, scary. I would argue scarier on the back end than the front end, although still a draw 2 on the front end. Both players playing 4 copies. And one notably gets around Narsets, a card that's going to be a fixture, especially the sideboard games in this matchup.
Absolutely, yeah. Narset Partner Avails is a real nuisance in, every format it's in, basically, but not in high copies in the main decks, so nothing they have to worry about too much here.
Daniel going after the front half of Derek's Memory Deluge, so that one's going to eat a Make Disappear. And back over to Derek we go. We do know, I think Derek has one more land dialed up, at least, in the form of a second copy of Field of Ruin. I think I saw in the hand. Actually has a irrigated farmland as well. So able to deploy a tap land there, pass the turn back, a pile of Dovin's vetoes, going to be able to get busy later in the game. So even though there's not a lot happening, and Derek did just get his memory dealer's counter, just getting a look at Derek's hand, those vetoes got to be worth a ton. I imagine he's set up pretty well to move into the late game for this game 1.
Yeah, these games are going to be, these are really going to be real battles. This is going to be hard to, I mean, Shark Typhoon being an uncounterable creature is a method to get onto the board, but there's enough removal that it's hard for those sharks to just put the game away before they get killed. And then there's just so many counters left for the rest of the stuff. There's no Teferi Time Revelers here to protect everything else.
To the 5-mana Teferis. Although it is worth noting, Derek Davis up a Dovin's veto if you're just talking about cards that matter. His 4 copies is his main deck. Dan Weiser only has 3. That could matter. I mean, we're seeing a lot of our decks. As, I'm going to go ahead and get Jwari Disruption on the flashback of Memory Deluge. So that one's going to get tagged. These Jwari Disruptions look very good for Derek Davis. And that does mean no flashback of his own Memory Deluge yet. His Castle Vantress added for Daniel. A lot of mana being tapped here. It's Teferi.
Yeah, that's a big one. Vantress also big in the long game. And you're right. I think to point out that you're going to see a lot of your deck. The game's going to go long enough that these players are going to see one ofs, two ofs. You know, it's not going to be uncommon to find them. So,
absolutely,
especially with Memory Deluge Flashback, even cards, there's not that much shuffling. So,
as both players are shuffling, what a time!
Yeah, I know. So putting
some field of runs.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
You missed the Castle Vantress. That one get picked off of the field of run. But yeah, you're right. Eventually, especially with these big Memory Deluges, you're gonna start to just kind of know where your cards are at as far as like positioning your deck. As the game goes on, is another irrigated farmland, notably not interested in cycling those, playing those tapped. Definitely speaks to the mana advantage mattering in this matchup. Is here is an in-step Wandering Emperor.
All right, can this land? It can. I mean, if you're okay, that was brief.
Oh yeah, check it out. So yeah, there's a opportunity here to go ahead and get lost before Daniel has mana. But of course, it's not a trigger that lets her activate. That's just something that's inherently true about the Planeswalker. So able to activate prior to that. So you see get lost. Destroy target creature, enchantment, or Planeswalker. Its controller creates 2 map tokens. And conveniently, Daniel Weiser has a target for these maps already dialed up.
Yeah, he sure does. And Dark Davis only has 2 cards. So probably looking to flashback. Actually, I take that back. There was 7 mana available, but now there's only 5 because Get Lost was played. So Flashback Deluge is not happening this turn. And we do find the map token there. We'll see if Daniel wants to crank that off right now. Ooh, it's going to be Teferi.
Well, we know he has another veto, and that's going to do a good job picking out these Teferis. Is there another follow-up for Daniel? He's done a great job just having threats ready to go. And, you know, Derek, to his credit, has done a good job keeping those mostly off the table. I think last card in hand for Derek is a Wandering Emperor. Didn't get a great look, though. Didn't get a great look there either. We'll see if he wants to just pass the turn with Memory Deluge. No land drop played. 2 cards in hand. Back to Daniel Weiser we go. Remember, maps can only be activated as a sorcery. And yeah, it looks like we're going to start it off with that. Get Lost on top of the deck for Daniel Weiser. Is he interested in keeping that?
I'm going to guess no, because counters are better than removal. But I guess if a Wandering Emperor slips into play, like one did for Daniel already, it is nice to be able to pick it off. If he doesn't have another option, I mean, he can't be wild about this. On the other hand, he could keep it and then sacrifice Omen of the Sea later and change his if he wants to change his mind.
Or Field of Run. I guess, yeah, if you're
that's true also.
Able to reset it, you can just kind of get rid of it that way.
Yeah.
Although if you farmland to draw it now if you need it. Wow, this is actually a much tougher decision. Have access to get rid of it or leave it if you want. And that would maybe incentivize not activating the second map. So we're not going to do that. Just go ahead and go to combat, get your 3 damage in, and see if there's any follow-up. If Irrigated Farmland's the only land Daniel Weiser has to play, I mean, imagine you still play it. I mean, there's a consideration to not, as Eorian going to go ahead and get special action. That is bought. And yeah, I think his Irrigated Farmland just didn't play it. Pass the turn over. Memory Deluge is going to get flashbacked, and that's going to eat an Absorb.
Okay. All right. Well, that's...
Dispute!
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, we have the Dispute to fight 8 mana, and that's going to work. That's his last 2 cards. And I see another Deluge among the mix. Wow. What an important dispute to have here.
Yeah, that was really, really significant. How many? What's the count of those in the main deck here?
2. We have 2. So we actually do have a second copy. Those are ones we didn't really highlight quite yet. Came up huge here for Derek Davis. And now, I mean, if Derek found something like a Teferi, you could just maybe resolve right away. That would be huge. Didn't get a great look at what all the options were, but I mean, I did see plenty of counter magic if that's what he wants. I saw another memory deluge if that's the direction we want to go. Had options.
Oh, and now he's got options too on the choices and now on play. It's going to be something. I mean, there is a token on the board, so Planeswalkers are not super, and it's just going to be land pass. Okay.
Safe. Yeah. Okay. Back to Daniel we go. We do know there's a Yorion in hand. Derek has not chosen to buy his yet and doesn't really have anything to flicker yet.
Mm-hmm. And we also know that Get Lost did end up being drawn by Daniel.
True.
So
and that makes the Wandering Emperor in Derek's hand maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah.
Although really awkward against these vigilance tokens, especially as Daniel Weissers grows, you're kind of in a little bit of trouble trying to make the Wandering Emperor happen. But
yeah, I mean, still,
I to work with.
Daniel's token and maps came from that exact interaction that Derek has available. That is going to stay.
Yeah, Dovin's Veto. I don't know where the game state would have to be that we're putting that in the graveyard, but you'd have to be really far behind, and Daniel Weisser is not. As another attack for 3 comes across, this chip damage could end up mattering. Here is a Memory Deluge on end step. See if Daniel Weisser is interested in trying to interact with that in any way.
Hard to counter this here because you're not going to close the game before it gets flashed back, probably. That's getting closer.
Very unlikely, but I mean, Daniel Weisser's also just got a lot of resources to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just have enough counterspells dialed up, we know about a veto on top. So if you want to answer this and then, you have the veto covered, maybe that's okay. Yeah, a lot of consideration here. And we're going to go for it now. We're just going to cycle the farmland.
All right, so Field of Ruin Field of Ruin is going to break that up.
Okay, well, that was pretty face up. That's going to go after a Hollowed Fountain. Obviously, Daniel Weiss are going to float mana with that some capacity as both players go a shuffling. So an interesting timing for this. Like you knew about that. All this is like kind of face up for Daniel Weisser, right? The cycle, and you know about the field can disrupt it. So is just getting that field activation on a land that doesn't matter part of the equation here? Because like your farmland is going to get a card no matter what, versus finding that specific card, and maybe you can still find a counterspell or whatever. Hard to tell, but this would maybe speak to Daniel having another play.
Well, and Derek now finds himself with 2 untapped mana after the field, so he's still. I guess he had 4 before that. Okay,
another farmland with the mana floating, and we had 2 looks. Apparently, didn't find anything. And Memory Deluge is gonna go a digging. See, Omen of the Sea, Castle Ardenvale's actually got to be pretty good. Field can take care of it before it can go too crazy. So maybe not a huge priority, but a land to play nonetheless. That's where you're at. Omen of the Sea with the last 2 mana going to go ahead and get cast.
Yeah, that's nice. That way that worked out. And that is a double keep from Derek.
Yeah, just re-highlighting, of course, the cycle from the irrigated farmland on the second one. That there was mana floating from the land that got Field of Ruin. Want to make sure that's clear in case, obviously can't see chat, but there might be people in chat kind of curious about that. Cycle for 1, what the heck? Yeah, no, there's mana floating from the Field of Ruined land. And just no play past the turn from Derek. And it's kind of funny as Derek's life total dwindles. I actually feel like Derek's getting more ahead.
Right. I mean, his hands, that Mystical Dispute just changed the whole pace, everything about this game. Derek now flush with resources. Daniel with, still stuff going on. And still, Dovin's Veto is making it hard to resolve anything for either player. But
true as well. Although Yorion's a card that we do know Dan Weiser has access to that would resolve underneath Dovin's Vetoes. Now, obviously, there's other counterspells and stuff like that. But if your concern is Veto specifically, Yorion's a card that works and actually gets some value with Owen to see in play. And Derek, kind of on the back foot as far as life total goes, could be some trouble.
I also feel like that's the more significant advantage here, whereas normally it would be the cards. Here, it's the actual threat.
Well, at some point, Derek can pick up one of his 2 Supreme Verdicts and maybe clean everything up, but that can maybe be a problematic proposition if, you don't have it yet and you need your Memory Deluge to resolve or whatever, as here comes another front face of Memory Deluge. So add the second one to the graveyard. Make disappear among the mix. Daniel Weisser can pay, so that one not looking that good. March of Swirling Mists? No. March of Otherworldly Light pulled to the front. And we'll see if Derek wants to take any action have to imagine you're interested in absorbing something like this.
It's
It's going to be a
for
cycle
1.
Shark Typhoon for 1.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then make disappear to sack the token, and then that's 4.
Yeah.
Cute.
All
Get to
right.
casualty the token away. That's actually going to work, and works around veto as well. So a very nice play from Derek Davis there. Hall of the Storm Giants, the follow-up. Not as much celebration for that one, but just as relevant on this board, as that represents a lethal threat on its own.
Yeah, it sure does. All right, Derek Davis. There's still a Daniel Weiser didn't really think too hard about that make disappear. I guess he couldn't stop it anyway, but he's fine with it. Yeah, I mean, it's like he needs to hold up his counter magic for whatever Derek's got. Although he takes it down here in order to scry. And you're right. I guess the exploit mechanic of make disappear was so relevant there, more so than it normally would be. It wasn't just usually pay 4 is pay 4, but here was pay 2 twice, and that was very different.
Yeah, matters a ton when you're opposing counter magic and stuff. So yeah, I mean, came up huge, being able to casualty away that token. We were like, what's going on with that? That's a really, really nice play to make that make disappear actually function. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the sharks kind of get removed a lot. Well, not when they just get casualtied away. Here comes the Hall, fired up, and an attack. Now we have a tap creature, Wandering Emperor, that Derek has had for many, many turns, able to at least be cast. Dovin's Veto, the response, and a veto and a make disappear backed up. Those don't tech Dovin's Veto, so now we have to go looking for a blocker. Omen of the Sea. Sees land, another Omen of the Sea.
That's not
Neither
it.
of those block Hall of the Storm Giants. And we don't find anything that Hall's able to get it done.
Yeah, so those Field of Ruins ran out, and then the Hall of Storm Giants connects to end the game. Although, I mean, the token was connected too, and Derek just had counter magic left. So
I want to call back to the conversation we had when the irrigated farmland happened and the way that impacted the game. So we were like, okay, that's pretty face up. This Field of Ruins in play. You can just activate it and you're just cycling a card. How does that fit into your plan? And now at the end of the game with Derek short of Field of the Ruin, you can go all the way back to that and say, well, Field of Ruining a random land actually comes up as really relevant in this game, and actually went on to win Daniel Weiser the game. Easy thing to miss, but impressive play that kind of made Derek use his Field of Ruin inopportunely and came up as a Field of Ruin short at the end of the game.
Sure. Okay, let's take a look at the deck list. There are slight differences between the two of them as we navigate over through these 80 card lists. We did see the Mystical Disputes. There are 2 of them in Derek Davis's deck list, as Drake mentioned earlier. There are some alternate counters in Daniel's deck that Derek does not have. But then we look at the extra stuff in the sideboard. This is 1 Narset main. There's 2 more on the board. There's 2
4 Regal Caracals.
Yeah.
Lesbian Azorius Cats, as I believe I've heard Zach Allen refer to this style of deck. Change the equation. Narset's reversals have to be insane in this matchup, and then Mystical Disputes, of course, as well. So a lot of counter magic. If that's
I would imagine reversal is okay here. I mean, you can.
Because it works against veto, right? It's just like one of the cards that actually works against veto.
Yeah, it does. But if they have mana available, it's not like it's I don't know. It doesn't feel super to me.
All right, it sucks, Joe.
Well, no, I'm just saying it's because it doesn't work on memory. The fact that reversal does not work on the card drawing is, I think, very significant as far as how the games play out. Because if you get your own copy of their Memory Deluge, you didn't spend any mana on it, so it resolves, but you don't get to look at any cards.
Sure, but if you take the flashback, that matters. Whatever. A card you can bring in if you want to get out enough removal spells. I think there's going to be like the temporary lockdowns. I think are atrocious, and maybe you reach for some of the get lost verdict stuff as well. So you have plenty of cards you want to get out. Maybe you want to bring it in, maybe you don't. But I think they certainly could look very, very strong in certain spots in the game. No interest in the Regal Caracals. Not Caracal them.
I don't know. Do you bring in all 4 of them? I mean, that very easily could be the plan. I don't.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I like bringing in 1. If I was in Derek Davis's seat, I'd bring in 1. I want something that can maybe in the game quick. I want to make Daniel think twice about cutting verdicts and stuff like that, and maybe he just has those at inopportune times. But I don't want to be flush with them. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at the other side of things. Daniel Weiser.
And a much different sideboard.
Yeah. Creatures here too, different ones. 2 Dream Trawlers. Two Chrome
Sea
Host Seed
Yeah.
Sharks. Between that and the Regal Caracals, is it maybe a wash? I don't know. I feel like I'd rather be on this side of things.
I mean, Dream Trawler getting Mystical Disputed, not great.
Yeah.
And also, Mystical Dispute, the only extra counter magic picked up for Daniel Visor on the sideboard means that you are a lot more incentivized to put things in play. But I think Chrome Host Seed Shark, kind of the unsung hero here. I think that card is going to be very, very strong. And of course, it does get disputed as well, but for much less mana. You don't feel as bad. And the fourth copy of Veto picked up for Daniel Visor as well in the sideboard. So quite a bit to change here as well. And I'd imagine a lot of similar cuts as well.
I think, kind of a fairly significant difference here is there are not Narsets in this deck, whereas Derek has 3. Or am I missing them? I don't see them.
No, I don't see them either. I mean, there's obviously a lot to look at, but I don't see them either. I only see 4 Teferi, 4 Wandering Emperor, none on the sideboard. No Narsets, instead favoring the kind of creature plan. I mean, sure, if you have a bunch of creatures, those pressure Narsets, and maybe that's worth doing. Even if Dream Trawler isn't drawing cards right away, maybe that's fine. But, I mean, it would look on the surface that Daniel Visor has less cards that are good in a control mirror to me than Derek Davis does. But it does look like the cards Daniel Visor has might be stronger. So, is having less but stronger better than having more on the aggregate? Not clear. But that's why we have 2 sideboard games to play. Well, up to 1 or up to 2, at least 1 to play, depending on how things shake. Daniel Visor able to win game number 1, even though it looked like Derek Davis was going to be able to get out of it. The Hall of Storm Giants able to get the job done. The creature lands very much a big part of this, and none of those are the counter spells. The counter spells don't work against it. And that's exactly what we saw the problem being. So bring in a bunch more counter spells. If what it's about is creature lands, and Daniel Visor can capitalize on that again, then maybe it's all for naught. All these counter spells aren't actually going to amount to a win in the control mirror.
As the players are still shuffling, I think there might be a mulligan going on here for Derek Davis. I wonder if in a 60-card deck, I feel like I would default to saying, to answer to your question, I would rather have fewer cards that were higher impact. In an 80-card Yorion deck, that may not be the case. You may want more cards because you have you're less likely to draw them. So you may a weaker sideboard card that you're more likely to draw may be actually stronger here. I don't
Then you start talking about the intricacies, right? Like a card that is strong but only early in the game, I would say is worse. But cards like Dream Trawler that are going to be good turn 14, when you're looking at an 80 card deck, maybe that card is still just as good on turn 14 as as if it would be in a 60 card deck, because you're going to see more cards like we talked about. You're more likely to find it, stuff like that. So maybe Chrome Host Seed Shark is a card to be less into. Dream Trawler card I'm more into if you're going to grade on that card. But you start talking about splitting hairs and things that
I know. They seem good. I mean, they seem good whenever. The Regal Caracal may be a little worse on turn 12 or something, because there's just harder to pressure through. It's harder to get work done. But with Derek having more planeswalkers, Daniel's creatures are likely to be more relevant. Also harder for Daniel to board out something like Get Lost when Derek has, more planeswalkers in after boarding.
That's true. But maybe, I think once you know what the exact cyber composition is, you can keep your Get Lost because they're good, and then cut some of the things like the verdicts that maybe Daniel Visor can't be as comfortable cutting. This is where the open deckless nature of this is going to come in huge. Because you are going to sideboard differently than if you were just playing a blind control deck based on what the composition of the sideboard is, because you know exactly what you're going to be facing down as far as your control hate goes.
Okay, so let's see, how many cards are we keeping here? I think Derek's down 1 at least.
All right, it looks like 1. It looks like we're reaching for another one, so potentially a mulligan to 5. I mean, not where Derek Davis wants to be. No, it is just a mulligan to 6. Still not where Derek Davis wants to be, especially on the play. And Island go over to Daniel Visor, just a Hall of Fountain tapped.
Yeah, and just Island Pass. Oh, okay. I was going to say, Island Pass can't signify much in the way of good lands, well, unless there's a Glacial Fortress, exactly, which there is.
And there sure was. Oh, and there's a shake of the head from Derek Davis. No third land. And back to Daniel Visor we go, who does have Deserted Beach as land number 3. No third land again. And Derek Davis already seeing the tournament begin to slip away as Daniel Visor does hit his 4th land drop. Need to find one here. Another brick, and it looks like we might actually on the mulligan be at move to discard time. For sure. Teferi's going to hit the bin. And what a brutal end. Derek Davis shaking his head. What a brutal end to the tournament. Maybe he's not out of it, but some stuff would have to go really wrong for Daniel Weiser here, as he's not really incentivized to do anything, and even can just start activating Castle Vantress. Already has something to do that doesn't involve committing spells.
Yeah, so he can just either keeping land drops if Derek keeps missing, or find action. Otherwise, he's also got Wandering Emperor in his hand if Derek, for some reason, were to tap mana for an
Omen of the Sea.
Yeah.
And Derek says, sure, all right, you can have that one. I'm not going to commit my counter spells to that. And Narset going to hit the bin.
Yeah.
Over to Daniel Weiser we go.
2-land Narset sounds pretty good on 6 cards, but
we found Field of Ruin. Okay.
That's great.
3 lands facing down 6 isn't a good spot to be, but there's no Teferi in play yet.
Oh, it's 2-land and Field of Ruin is so tough. You can't even cast Absorb. It's so brutal.
Look, you did this to yourself, putting all these utility lands in your 2-color deck. Oh, my mana's so good. No, it's not. Oh my god. All right, Dispute back. Here's a big fight over the Emperor. I mean, the fact that Weiser is willing to commit Mystical Dispute, which is going to be great with Derek so low on mana, means he has to have a crazy follow-up, and he sure does. It is Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, card coming off of that Teferi, and there is an island, 2 lands untapped, and I think this is kind of where we draw, and if it's not a land, we're kind of done. Yeah. It was a land. Hall of the Storm Giants, not ideal. Narset could shut down the draw from Teferi. Is that something that could matter? Who knows? Weiser's giving it a think.
Yeah, Daniel Weiser's trying to choose which of his 3 counterspells he wants to play here.
You're so pessimistic, Joe. Maybe it just works. Maybe he's on all air. He's not on all air.
Bang, there it goes. Yeah.
Mystical Dispute. And it is going to be, my apologies. It looks like Restless Anchorage is actually the land. And over to Weiser we go. It might have another play.
Boy, yeah. Derek was had dreams of like Narset gets countered, second Narset with Dispute backup, but we didn't even come close to any of that. And
you need a 3rd land for that.
Yeah, I guess you do. And
Teferi is going to start going to work, and I mean, you got to keep playing. If you're Derek Davis, your tournament is on the line. A loss in this game means the end to your tournament, and it's not looking good. But you can't concede. Whatever the percentage is, you got to play for it.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, however, maybe you think, okay, I can play my way back into this. I can make good decisions, but this is no slouch you're facing off here against either. I mean, even if the players were equally competent playing this matchup, playing this mirror, Daniel Weiser has a commanding lead already.
Yeah, if you're ever in a spot where you need a mistake to happen, it's just so unlikely to even come close to happening. Here comes a big shark, looks like, looking to end the game quickly. Actually, multiple sharks in play. That's the Shark Kindred deck is Azorius controls. Get Lost. Going to go after Teferi after the big shark being made. But that does leave Chromos Seed Shark in play and a 5/5 shark token from Shark Typhoon. Daniel Weiser so far ahead, doesn't even need it. Just going to untap with this Chromos Seed Shark and the shark token. It's already 7 points of power.
He's behind in life, though. So.
That's very representative of what's going on.
Derek Davis has that going for him for the moment.
Yeah, until those creatures turn sideways, and then things, everything's terrible.
Hey, well, we're living in the moment here as Derek Davis.
We cracking maps? We making the sharks bigger? How are you feeling?
It'd be pretty cool. I mean, he goes, yeah, sure, why not?
Flavorful.
Probably.
We should have another. We should have another. Make a 5/5 incubation too.
Yeah, getting the incubation tokens on the board before the Chrome host gets swept up by Vert or something is obviously key. And I imagine that 5/5 incubate will stay there until
a verdict happens. If ever.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's Daniel's not going to use that to push pressure next turn. I wouldn't think. He's just going to have it sit there.
Oh, we are cracking a map. It looks like.
Oh, okay.
So I think because it looked like the die got bumped. Derek flipped it back, and then Daniel said, "No.
Yeah,
I have one." So yeah, we're choosing what to explore. What's going for a little adventure? I don't think either of these sharks can read a map or read anything in general, but sure, I guess. As a Restless Anchorage is picked up, so everything coming up Daniel Weiser, including an attack for 7. And back to Derek Davis we go, as every turn has looked worse than the previous, as lands are now included. Teferi, a pickup. Castable.
Great. Daniel Weiser can let it resolve.
Narset is going to be the card of choice
Oh.
to be cast, and Daniel Weiser quickly says, sure. Quick down tick for Derek Davis. Can't grab lands, can grab spells, get lost, quickly picked up. I mean, that can go after the Chromos. Something.
Yeah. Yeah, it can.
And we are going to go ahead and transfer.
Yeah, like Daniel's like, all right, you spent a bunch of mana. Let's go for the win right now. So here's get lost on what?
The problem is you're giving so many maps. Now there's like 5 maps. We're close to lethal. He gets to miss on a few of these maps if you don't kill a 5/5.
You can't even hit.
Yeah, you have to kill a 5/5.
Yeah, you do. And there's also the creature land in play as well. So let's see, 79. I think if all the maps hit spells, Daniel's still a point short of winning the game this turn, but that's
well, let's
hardly
find out.
A problem.
That is a spell. It's another Chrome Host Seed Shark. So we found both copies right away here. And yeah, he says, sure. Yeah, that's a great draw. I would not mind drawing that. Are we going to continually fire the maps off? It looks like the answer is no. An attack for 8.
Yeah, Chrome
That's
Host
going to actually rather. We're going to clear the Narset with the 3/3 Shark and then crunch for 5, which should put Derek to 8.
Well, Derek is now out of Narsets, which is probably not something.
Probably not the card that matters that much right now.
No, I know. You practically see more Narsets than lands this game.
Needs a Supreme Verdict more than anything, really.
Yeah.
Only card that actually would get anywhere, assuming they're still in the deck. I mean, obviously you can pile up some get lost, but eventually a random hand sandwich is going to go very exploring with all these maps, and you're still going to die to that. Narset's Reversal? No, Jwari Disruption, rather. Top of the deck. Don't control that one.
How does that not go to the hand? It's a land.
It's not a land, Joe.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, sort of indeed. And that's, it drives me crazy. Some people like put the backside and leave that face up as the thing. And that's something you're allowed to do. It's not against the rules, but it drives me nuts for this reason. And yeah, the make disappear for the Teferi is going to do it. And that is the end to Derek Davis's presence in the NRG Championship. A fine run from him and a quality opponent to lose to. Daniel Weiser, brutal way to do it, but a solid run nonetheless.
Yeah, and Derek Davis, someone who's had a lot of success in Magic in the last 12 months. NRG Championship, not his ideal playground. Had 2 rough goes in a row, and he is out of here. But Daniel Weiser will advance. Daniel Weiser will join us for a talk in a moment. In the meantime, we'll let you know that we've got 1 round left in our double elimination grouping. Tomorrow morning will look the same as you're seeing tonight. There will be 8 players remaining in the tournament at that point, and will be a 3-round double elimination bracket before the top 4 is reached. At that point, the players will no longer be vetoing formats because they'll be playing all the formats. It'll be a best 2 out of 3 matches against each other. There you go. We'll show the rest to you. We'll show you the rest. It is going to be reseeded in the morning as well. The elimination, vetoing formats, playing what in theory is the most competitive of the 3. 2 wins before 2 losses, you're in the top 4. The reverse, and you're out in the top 8. Still an impressive showing, which Daniel Weiser has now locked up for him. I take that back. Daniel Weiser has to.
Yeah, no, he's still back.
No, he's still battling. You're right. He hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't got through yet. He's still got to win another one tonight.
Brutal. All that winning and still got one more. If you want to play tomorrow, you still got to win it in.
Yeah,
and is
rough for Derek Davis. Barely. 2 and 5. Barely squeaked in on tiebreakers to the stage 2, and then immediately gets dumpstered and 2 and 7 overall. A rough day. I mean, top four in your pro tour kind of washes away a lot of the sadness, but still, I mean, you want to do one every event you go to, and it just didn't work out for Derek this weekend.
Just drowning his tears in all of his elo. Although Daniel Weiser ahead on elo, so like I said, doesn't hurt his elo that bad.
That's true.
If that's the metric you care about, then here you are. I mean, look, we're putting it on our player ranking, so it's a thing to care about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, a rough weekend, and it really goes to show, I think there's not enough conversation when you talk about Magic tournaments. People, especially now, have this expectation of themselves and of others. If you're good, then you're going to succeed at every event, or even just most events. That's just not reality. You can be a great player paired up against a bunch of other great players, have not a great run. But Derek Davis, his event is over. Daniel Weiser looks like he is getting settled, and he is someone that has had a fine run so far today, has a little bit more work to do. How are you feeling today, Daniel? How do you feel about your choices?
All right. I think that my Pioneer deck is great, and the other two formats, my deck choices could have been better in both of them, for sure.
Okay, can you walk us through now? You just played in the regional championship in Atlanta.
Yes.
Can you walk us through the mindset of preparing where one format is the whole tournament versus here you had to kind of prepare three? Like, was it just the same amount of overall time split up? Did you work harder, less hard? Was this less important? Like, what was the approach coming in?
I mostly played Standard preparing for this tournament because I played no Pioneer because I had just played in Atlanta and I liked my deck a
Yeah.
lot. I obviously won the tournament, so like I was very happy with that. Gonna run the back, of course. And then in Modern, I probably could have prepared more, but I basically just played Greg Orange's 4-color blue-white deck
Mhm.
from the last PT. Funnily enough, I did not realize, like, I forgot that preordain was legal until the day after I had submitted my deck list, and then I realized that I should probably have a couple copies of that in my deck. But that's what happens when you don't prepare enough. And then Standard,
Sure.
yeah, like played some on Arena, picked a deck, but
Mhm.
I expected more people to play Domain, so I think if I could mulligan my deck choice in Standard, I would. I would play as a
Okay.
more
What?
just sorry.
No, sorry, it's my fault. What? So we've got one more round tonight. You need a win. Um, you're saying you like you're feeling good about Pioneer. Is that what you're hoping to play in the last round tonight?
Don't tell my opponent, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We won't. We'll keep it secret, I promise.
I mean, my last opponent just like chose Pioneer, so don't tell the next guy.
Yeah. No. Sure. No. The secret is safe with us. We don't. No one's watching the stream anyway. It won't matter. So what's your feeling on playing the small field event? Like what's the can you compare just not deck wise or preparation wise, just kind of the feel of the room versus Atlanta?
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the small field is really cool to play these small tournaments where you know a bunch of the players going in and you can like metagame based off their preferences and try and get an edge that way. I also really like the multi-format aspect of this tournament. I think it's super exciting. I've never played a tournament where you get to like pick three formats or bring three decks and then you ban formats until you got one left. Like I think that's a really cool aspect of it. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. We all the players were handed the I forget what they called the box set of 3 cards that were significant to you this year. We don't have a picture of it in front of you, but you want to tell the viewers what yours were and if we did a good job, if Dakota store manager for Nerd Rage did a good job picking your cards for your box this year.
It is Shark Typhoon, Archon of Cruelty, and then Chrome Host Seed Shark. And I wish that there was not the Archon in there because we can forget about that tournament. I did not do well in that one. But the double Shark is incredible. I love the double Shark, very much what I'm about right now. So fantastic job on
Representative of your last game too.
Yes,
Shark
that's
Typhoon
true.
And the Crow Sea Shark, you're sharking it up. Made a comment at the time. Yeah, you love your sharks, and that's really fun. The tie in there, and an impressive performance so far for you, especially given how much you apparently don't like your other 2 decks. It's a great performance on Pioneer, and still have a chance to play tomorrow.
Yeah.
Still a lot to play for.
Yeah.
All right, Daniel. Well, good luck in your last round, and we'll hopefully make it through to Sunday, and we'll see you later.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, Daniel Weiser putting on a show with the blue-white mirror that round. We're going to take a break. Unsurprisingly, didn't get to the amulet matchup. Sorry.
What?
We'll be back. All right, Drake Sasser, Joe Lissette here for Nerd Rage Gaming. We are in stage 2, round 3. So both of our players, there will be 2 matches this round. All the players are 1-1 this evening. The winners will advance to day 2. The losers will be out. So that's what's left to us. And Drake, we just talked, and those of you that were here, thanks for being here. You just saw us talk with Daniel Weiser, and he didn't want us to, we weren't going to give out the secret that he wanted to play Pioneer, right? Well, Theo Jung clearly wasn't listening, and they're playing Pioneer.
They sure are. Yeah, Weiser banned Standard expectedly got kind of beat up in the Esper versus Rakdos midrange we saw earlier, so he's good on that. Theo bans Modern, which would have been Rhinos versus Four Color. The match we are going to see, Pioneer, going to be Phoenix versus, of course, the Azorius control deck from Daniel Weiser. And this is actually a replay of the matchup from the RC that Daniel won. So
Right.
I'm not sure how comfortable he is in the matchup. I think it goes back and forth. I think people overstate how bad the blue eye control matchup is for Phoenix, but I mean, certainly, Daniel Weiser has experience winning in high stakes moments in this matchup. So hard not to like his odds as these players are shuffling up, getting ready, looking over each other's deck lists. I believe Weiser is going to be on the play too. Both players, They had to actually have a random play draw. Normally it's by seeding. Both players are at the same seed from each pod. So randomly gets to be on the play in the format he wants. We're going to see his tournament's on the line for both of these players. You win, you're in. You lose, you're out. As clean as it gets. Yeah,
Daniel Weiser. I mean, huge reputation, huge ELO rating, huge respect in our peer rankings, and certainly a significant portion of that came from playing this matchup last month in Atlanta. But Theo Zhang thinks he can change up the outcome. So we'll see. We are underway.
Oh, I love this matchup so much, Joe. I played a lot of the Phoenix Blue White matchup. When I played Pioneer with Expressive Iteration, I felt that Phoenix was actually favored, depending on how your deck was, positioned. Since then, a fair bit has changed. But what matters here is there's no copies of Farewell anywhere in the deck.
Right.
And that is a card you cannot beat. So, Theo has to be pretty excited about that. And we will see exactly how things play out now that Express Iteration is no longer legal in the format. Like I said, hard to hate Daniel Weiser's position. This is something that a matchup he's played before in a high stakes moment with, the format he wanted to play and on the play. So, can you get it any better than that? Not clear to me. Theo choosing to hold up mana instead of deploying Ledger Shredder last turn, chooses to deploy it this turn.
All right, makes some sense. Trying to, if it's going to die, you may as well get a trigger along with it. And Daniel is going to cast Omen of the Sea. And okay, so Ledger Shredder is going to make it in. That's a start. Theo will get some advantage. That's a start.
Well, that's a nod to the main deck Spell Pierce as well, for its worth. One copy for Theo Zhang. And going to be effective in this matchup if he draws it. Able to, I don't know why, is that Omen in the graveyard? We did the thing, right? Anyways, whatever. Being able to cast it and then not get Spell Pierced prior, to the Ledger Shredder's second spell. A little bit of heads up play there as we move to Daniel Weiser's turn. Fiery Impulse discarded off of the Connive. That's going to put a counter on Ledger Shredder. Of course, no damage-based removal, so not likely to matter as far as toughness considerations growing outside the size of something. But
no, we're just looking at damage considerations, right? We're just trying to push.
The Omen has been resurrected from the graveyard and is back in play. That one, of course, should have been in play. Did not crack it quite yet. A little bit, maybe a sign of some fatigue. It's been a long day for Daniel Weiser. A lot of long games and whatever. Still firing all cylinders, playing the deck he wants to play. Ledger Shredder is going to get taken down by March of Otherworldly Light. Back to Theo we go. All tapped out is Daniel Weiser. Everything's going to work, and we're going to start with another Ledger Shredder. Follow-up is another Opt. We've seen this before.
Yeah, we have. We've seen a lot of, there's going to be a lot of repetitive actions here. There's going to be a lot of plays that two of them are familiar with, a lot of interactions just building towards the later game. I guess really Theo's trying to get to the mid game and get paid off big time with his Delve cards and with Arclight Phoenixes. And Daniel's trying to survive the onslaught. The sideboard games, he'll have more answers for the graveyard, but in game one, he kind of just has to slog through it, like you were saying, without farewells.
Yeah, a lot to slog through, although, let's see. We only got one copy of Galvanic Iteration, one copy of Temporal Trespass for Theo. A lot of Treasure Cruises to work with otherwise. Okay. Sometimes the way that this matchup can play out, especially in the first game before Rest in Pieces and things like that get in the mix, is Theo just kind of builds to Galvanic Iteration, Temporal Trespass. Mm-hmm. And, if you can get 2 turns, great. If one of them gets countered, that's fine. You still get to untap and shields are down. Yeah. So you get to kind of overwhelm the counter magic with that particular combination. And they're really easy to find with the Picklock Pranksters, previously Pieces of the Puzzle. A little bit of discussion on what you're supposed to have. No Pieces of the Puzzle, I believe, present for Theo Zhang. All Picklock Pranksters, which, of course, we are freeing the Fae right here, if I had to guess. So counterspell on this would counter the creature, and you can use a Dovin's Veto to do that if Daniel Weiser wants to. Also, just a free spell to trigger Ledger Shredder again. You kind of get to do two things. And I think that's part of the reason to use Dovin's Veto here. It's like Dovin's Veto pretty premium in the matchup overall, but here being able to just deny the Ledger Shredder trigger is great. Yeah, here we have to commit another spell in order to actually get the Connive trigger, which we're going to go ahead and do with another opt. And a fine trade for Daniel, I'd say so far. 3 mana left over for anything scary, and not under really any pressure.
Right. I think that's the big thing. It's just there's nothing as the Ledger Shredder gets thrown away. Daniel's life total staying high, staying at 20. Theo not sandbagging Arclights. He actually hasn't seen one yet.
Yeah, a tough spot to be. One of the cards you would really like to discard to the Ledger Shredder. Gonna play Lava Glide Pathway. And looks like Temporal Trespass present in the hand. No Galvanic Iteration quite yet, as here comes an attack. Don't have to worry about Wandering Emperor. Sometimes you'll see some really weird plays with your haste creatures not attacking because you don't want to just tap out for your Phoenix straight into getting exiled with Wandering Emperor. So you can play weird sometimes. No Wandering Emperor available for Daniel right now, having only 3 mana up. So this attack looking pretty safe. And back to Daniel we go.
Gave a little bit of thought there to sacrificing the Omen in the Sea and decided against it. Does have
speaks to the intent to maybe grab Yorion at some point soon?
Yeah. No, yeah, certainly at some point, and wanting to have access to that little boost of free card advantage there.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. Theo, a lot of resources to work with.
Yeah, so if he's got cantrips in the hand here, you just keep burning. I mean, you kind of have to burn through the deck until you find. Yeah, there's Cruise in hand, I guess.
Yeah, so, I think you want to just lead on Treasure Cruise. Like you have Temporal Trespass already available, and you only have one Temporal Trespass. You have a pile of card advantage. So Treasure Cruise kind of the card that you're okay getting countered. It sucks nuke your graveyard. Yeah, we don't even see Daniel Weiser reach for counter spells. I think that's actually just fine. There's a lot of dead cards in the Phoenix deck in the first game. Like these Fiery Impulses are not going to look good. So you need to find a way to get those in the graveyard with Ledger Shredder, which involves, committing your mana and tapping mana and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what Daniel wants to see.
And there's not really any big reason for Theo to ever have, normally you think you have a blue deck. Oh, I want to lose some mana on tap to my opponent's turn. Daniel knows Theo doesn't have anything going on. There's one Spell Pierce and that's it. So, I guess there's
Galvanic Iteration, the Spell Pierce. That's
no, sure.
It's not good, but there's not a lot. You're talking about like a Brazen Borrower and Spell Pierce as far as tricks go. A lot of the rest of it's red removal spells that do not have a lot of text. Even back when I thought the blue-white control matchup was a little favored for the Phoenix deck back during Expressive Iteration time, the main deck game was not good. There was something like 9 cuts or whatever. Just all your red removal spells, get them out.
See there, Theo actually put 2 spells on the stack at the same time. He freed the Fade and responded to that with Consider, so we could then have the Ledger Shredder trigger before the Consider resolved. Nicely done. And now does find Darklight Phoenix finally.
Yeah, found 1. And I think that's 3 spells, right? We have Free the Fae, Treasure Cruise, and Consider. That's all happened this turn. We still have a land to make. Stormcarved Coast is going to be the play. So we already have enough to bring the bird back. We already have 2 threats. And put a bunch of the lands in the graveyard. A lot of spells in hand for Theo. Yeah, go ahead. Good combat. Here's a bird. Going to attack with both. And that's going to get sharked.
Yeah.
This here is a cycle for Shark Typhoon. That's going to make a 4/4 shark. Get a look at Arclight Phoenix. Beginning to comment on your turn. You cast 3 more instant or sorcery spells this turn. Return Arclight Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. A card I love dearly. Did a lot of playing the modern version of this deck. Now available for Pioneer.
All right. So Petty Theft will get rid of the Shark token. If 5 damage comes across, which is, a chunk of Daniel's life total, but we're probably pretty far away from him being concerned about things.
True, but we are once again looking through a lot of Theo's deck. Theo already has the Temporal Trespass in hand. He finds now he has like a board presence such that if he does find the Galvanic Iteration at almost any point, he's good.
Yeah,
and eventually, if you get to 8 mana, then you get to play Galvanic Flashback, that trick that used to be a feature of the standard formats.
And already, even though the cruise happened last turn, Theo's graveyard already rebuilt entirely. So no shortage of Delve cards. Here's a Verdict. That's something. Ledger Shredder gets wiped out, so Conniving gets slowed down, but Arclight just waits to come back again. Daniel does
not a bad trade for Theo. Right. Basically a 1-for-1.
Daniel does have 1 main deck copy of Hallowed Moonlight. That would be a great pickup. However, in a Yorion deck, you can't depend on that showing up anytime soon. And honestly, it may not even be worth using for just one Arclight.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, I don't even think you want to draw it until way later. I think you want to wait until all 4 come back, because that does just come up. Like, obviously, some of them get exiled with marches and, Wandering Emperors, things of that nature. But usually a part of the equation for grinding through the blue-eye control deck is step 1, draw less lands than they do, which your cantrips and Ledger Shredders do. Step 2, actually get card advantage through your Phoenixes being recurred. And things like Get Lost, you really want to see those on Phoenixes be required, which means putting a lot of pressure on Daniel's life total early on. So Hallowed Moonlight could be a key player, turn 17, assuming the game gets that far. We are just going to fire up Triple Trespass now. Not interested in waiting for any Galvanic Iteration is Theo, which not too bad when Dan Weiser's already committed the tapped a bunch of mana on his turn.
Yeah.
So now,
right. And then with Hall of Storm Giants getting ready to get fired up, that may actually be the route through here.
It would be lethal if there's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and on the last cantrip, there is a veto. On the last cantrip, Theo actually kept Spikefield Hazard instead of getting rid of it. So wanting to get through here a point, and then maybe
this third spell for your Phoenix.
Yeah, get the worst for the Phoenix. Yeah, even though it's maybe a kind of a lame one there, it does work. And then here is Picklock Prankster into play for the first time.
This matchup very much, this is kind of emblematic of what's going on with the Phoenix Blue Eye Control matchup. You just move a bunch of cards around and then try to beat them up with garbage. Mm-hmm. And garbage it is. 1-3.
Yeah. And 3-2 that Brazen Bar, we're waiting in the Adventure Zone as a potential way to recover too. It's going to matter. Daniel down to 9 life. Played 1 verdict already out of 3, not 4. So maybe now some concern. We haven't seen target removal yet. No Wandering Emperors, no marches.
Yeah, March definitely a big part of the equation. And yeah, here is going to be Yorion play Flicker. So we're going to go ahead and buy that. 5 mana to cast it. Going to Flicker the Omen of the Sea. Enough life to work with that, not concerned about any kind of removal spell that can actually kill Yorion maybe, and then firing up Paul quite yet. Would need another land for that, but not impossible, I guess. Like land Lightning Axe plus fire up Paul could work. See another bird picked up. Maybe it's time you might have to just attack with your Phoenix's Fiery Impulse. This could be kind of tough. But with Daniel at 9, this is part of the desperation plays you really want to start forcing, is just put enough pressure on the life total that you force Daniel to have to use removal spells on Phoenixes in inopportune ways. I think Theo's done a good job of that so far. Might just be fire up Hall right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was thinking that too. And maybe just send it in and it's going to be the impulse plan. Impulse,
hardcast Phoenix, attack for 7.
All right.
A lot of lethal threats, require a verdict, and then even verdict may not be good enough. Don't hate this either as we go back to Daniel.
No, Theo might be in position to grab game 1 here. From the draw position as well.
Emperor gains some life. So that card could be a huge player here. Exile one of the Phoenixes, gain some life, so you're not just dead to 1 bird, but then you still need something else. Another removal spell or whatever. This Picklock Prankster. Memory Deluge.
That's
not a good sign.
No, it is not. This looks pretty dangerous here.
Daniel Weiser getting a look. Chooses 2 cards fairly quickly. And now, it's like verdict or bust. March can get
no verdict is nothing now because because a verdict here, the Hall of Storm Giants would kill him.
Right. Yes, I think that's what we're gonna do that no matter what. Fire up the Hall, attack with everything. No Settle the Wreckage present in the deck list. And so that's gonna be it for game number 1. Daniel Weiser down a game on the play in the format he wanted to play. Theo Jung did a great job cleaning that up and putting a lot of pressure on Daniel Weiser through game number 1. I would expect some pretty dramatic changes for both players as we move to the sideboard.
Yeah, we'll look at the deck list. We'll look at the sideboards. That was interesting the way that played out, though. Committing the Temporal Trespass, which may be one of the threats that Daniel would worry about not wanting to tap out in front of. So once it's happened, he knows it can't happen again. Then taps out and then ends up losing his position and losing the game. Anyway, sideboarding here.
Part of that equation for sure. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. All right. So toys in the sideboard here for Daniel Weiser. We just want to focus in on, well, I want to focus in. It's hard to not focus in on the 3 Rest in Peace, which are great at blanking significant portions of Theo's deck. In addition to that, Mystical Disputes, more Hallowed Moonlight, more counters.
Elspeth Smite is an exile removal spell. That one can take care of a bird in a pretty clean way. I think you're in the market for that as well. I haven't seen that much of. Good in the
there's
match.
Dream Trawlers, there's Chrome Host Sea Sharks. Is there anything here that Daniel doesn't want? Destroy Evil is kind of a loser, right?
Yeah, Destroy Evil isn't great. I don't know how much you actually want to try Dream Trawlers because the best card from the Phoenix side is their own Mystical Dispute. So getting that Mystical Dispute is kind of disastrous. And like you also get to leave your verdicts in and stuff like that for a bunch of the scrappy picklock pranksters and stuff like that. So, maybe you don't want some of the creature stuff, the Chrome Hosts and the Dream Trawlers, but you do want a lot. Like I said, I would expect some pretty dramatic changes as far as you want like all the disputes, all the Rest in Pieces and stuff like that. And some of your clunkier cards can maybe start to get out of your deck.
All right. And Theo's side, we're going to see the entrance of the counter magic, which was absent in game 1 for the most part.
Yeah, 2 Mystical Disputes, 2 Negates, pretty well prepared. You can even bring in like a Hearse if you're in the market for that. Young Pyromancers to prepare. Like Young Pyromancers, Crackling Drake's kind of your plan for Rest in Peace. You always have to have a plan when you're playing your Phoenix deck for cards that do not care about Graveyard Hate. And Fables, Crackling Drakes, and Young Pyromancers are that repertoire. Now the question is, how much, if any, what do you want? Not clear to me. A lot of it is my guess.
Yeah. So I mean, some of the removal is going to come out. Beyond that, you probably hedge and take out some Delve cards, right?
Right. Yeah, I usually cut to like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So I would expect basically like 4 Lightning Axe, 4 Fiery Impulse, and then 4 of the 5. I usually left 1 Trespass, cut all crews, but who knows? That was with Express. I don't know what we do now, but yeah, I would trim a bunch of the Delve stuff because Rest in Peace is coming in mass, and then you get to bring in just the pile. You get to bring in whatever, another Brazen Borrower. You can bring in Crackling Drakes, Fables, Mystical Disputes, Negates, like the whole works. And so, I mean, like I said, you're going to see some major overhauls from, I think, both of these decks going.
Yeah. A Picklock Prankster less appealing as well. I mean, basically Daniel will pick up Graveyard Hate and some counter magic, and Theo will pick up some counter magic also, but then just alternatives to using his graveyard and see who is able to prevail here. But Theo being up a game, looking strong, and pile shuffling.
Yeah, sure. Got to count it. I mean, when you make that many changes, it would not surprise me if you shuffled your entire sideboard in because you're bringing in so many cards. And like, if you did it that way, then actually piling shuffle isn't like that much nonsense. Make sure you don't mess it up. But I'm shocked looking at Theo's sideboard, actually how prepared, which makes sense. And thinking about it a little bit further, how much control shows up at these NRG championships. If you're going to choose to play something like Blue Red Phoenix, you kind of need to over prepare. And I'm looking at the sideboard, I would say he did. He has, just so a wide variety of things against both Supreme Verdict and removal spells and Rest in Pieces and just a ton of it. Honestly, I'm just more surprised there's not more in the main deck. If you're going to put all this stuff in your deck, why not start it all? I don't know. Maybe just trying to keep the integrity of the deck. But I do think Theo is very well prepared for this matchup.
We didn't really talk about the Pioneer metagame at all since Drake and I's rounds of the pod play consisted of Modern only. But this morning, I assume they did. But yeah, in the Pioneer metagame, out of the 16 players, there were 6 blue-white control decks in Pioneer. So Theo, like you're saying, well suited for this, did a good job anticipating what his opponents were going to be bringing, as you can see there.
Yeah, only one Lotus Field. Loves to see that. That matchup's pretty bad. Amalia is probably actually pretty good. Quintorius, kind of bad. Like those kinds of things. Like not very many of the bad matchups. Control, not a great matchup, if I had to guess, but a lot of preparation in the sideboard and respect for it. And thankfully, a lot of those cards double as Rakdos mid-range cards too.
Sure.
And so definitely pretty well set up. Sleight of hand, I think it's looking at Treasure Cruise and something else. Didn't get a great look. One to hand, one to bottom. And back to Vicer we go with an untapped Restless Anchorage. Adds an untapped Hallowed Fountain to the mix. That requires a shock. And maybe telegraphs a turn to play that is not Rest in Peace. Had the opportunity to play one with the shields down. Did not. Second haul for Theo. It's Omen of the Sea. Look at it too. Going to decide where those are going to go.
All right.
A lot to think about.
The free window for dropping Rest in Peace is now passed. Now Daniel will actually have to respect that Theo could counter it at some point. And
it basically every point in these first few turns, Mystical Dispute is kind of the name of the game. Because if he can go like rest in peace, oh, you have negate or whatever, Mystical Dispute that.
Yeah.
Like it's just the trump card.
Right.
We'll see exactly. I think he's decided to split. One top, one bottom, deserted beach, no play, end step. We're going to go ahead and free the Fae. And thinking on that one, it's going to resolve. And notably, lists types, instant sorcery, fairy, cannot grab the fable, does grab the spell. Pierce, thinking about it a little bit more. Almost selected the spell Pierce, but a pretty bad one to have face up. Chooses to grab it anyway.
And are we? No, okay. I thought maybe we didn't have red mana, but we were just getting those halls out there while they came in and play tap. There is a steam fence or a sulfur falls for the. Okay. One of those blue red lands.
The one that goes on, the best one to have, actually. Yeah. Sequence is great here. It comes in untapped. No pain, no gain. Here's a Ledger Shredder. You know there's a Spell Pierce in hand. So does Daniel. So not really going to want to cast anything after that. And I can't imagine Theo will either. And he does not. So back to Daniel we go. Notably, Rest in Peace wouldn't even matter that much against Theo's hand right now. So Daniel not probably upset to not have one, as we are just going to play Blue Pathway Pass, negate to pick up for Theo, a big one.
All right. I believe there's a young Pyromancer in hand too, but now that the Shredder's out there, I doubt we're going to commit a second 2-drop throw to the board as opposed to just growing the first one. I mean, maybe there's a spell
pierce. Maybe Picklock Prankster or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sure. That one, that's hardly even
not a real, a real commitment of any kind. Yeah. It sucks right now. Something we saw Theo do a lot in game one is use cantrips to trigger the Ledger Shredder. But once this Ledger Shredder gets answered, you actually want those cantrips for your young Pyromancer. So it is kind of awkward what you want to hold your cantrips for, especially given that you have so many spells. You have your land drop accounted for already. Like, what are you cantripping for? And so I really like the decision to just go to combat, attack for one, not really commit any cantrips.
All right. So it's going to be shock and then pass, presumably. If the first cantrip wasn't played already, I doubt we're playing one now. But it could be.
Like the question is Prankster. Like, are you playing the Prankster?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, we are. So, a little bit. Turn up the heat a little bit. Really start to chip on that life. You need to start to go down.
The second copy of a 1/3. That's really getting it done. Now, this Spell Pierce is going to turn on the Ledger Shredder, but leave Theo, not tapped out, but certainly tapped down heavily during Daniel's next turn.
Well, he just drew a Mystical Dispute off of that Connive. And like I said, I think that's going to be one of the big ones here because Daniel Weiser ran that into the Spell Pierce. Theo happy to cash out the Spell Pierce, being like, oh, look, it's face up. This is as good as it gets. And Daniel presumably doing this to try to resolve something mana intensive on his following turn. If it is blue, then that Mystical Dispute that Theo just picked up is going to tag it.
Yeah, that would work. Rest in Peace can get through, but
Wandering Emperor could get through.
Oh, that
won't. Oh no! And Mystical Dispute's going to catch that. That worked as well as possible for Theo. And back to Theo's turn we go. Oh, such a brutal sequence for Daniel Weiser. Like I said, these Mystical Disputes are so brutal through the first few turns. Interested. Right. He's going to commit young Pyromancer and try to turn up the heat.
Okay, and then oh wow, this is just really working out well. No Rest in Peace to stop this Treasure Cruise, and even if there was, the rest of the board would still be flowing pretty well for Theo here. Now looking for a token for his young Pyromancer.
He's a Connive trigger as well. We're going to go ahead and resolve that while we have the time. Yeah, get rid of a land. Ton of lands in hand. Don't need more of those. And everything's coming up Theo right now. Daniel Weiser suddenly on the back foot needs to find a Supreme Verdict, but if he does, maybe it's in pretty good shape. Can't be countered. And these are a lot of the pretty good threats. I mean, we're looking at 3 total threats now. So Supreme Verdict definitely matters if Daniel does have one. So here comes an attack for 3.
He's going to need it. I mean, he almost needs it now because with those 2 Hall of Storm Giants, if Theo's allowed to make another land drop and then Daniel sweeps him up, it might be, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's going to be close to lethal at that point. Yeah.
Right. So, if he has to cantrip for it, then, he's facing down the gun of the Hall of Storm Giants, and that's pretty rough. And with Theo discarding lands, you can't even really hope for him to miss a land or whatever and not have it. It's Dream Trawler.
Oh no.
Oh no. Okay, so we're gonna Daniel picking it up like the other dispute. He does not. Consider's gonna go looking for it though. It's gonna make a young Pyromancer token, and we're gonna graveyard the opt and draw Consider number 2. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and cast that one as well. That'll trigger both things. Connive's going to happen first. And Negate hits the bin. Yeah, Negate not really what the game about with Dream Trawler on this stack. Consider Mystical Dispute no longer good. Looking to just set up next turn. Oh, I bet it's the Dispute. That look.
Oh,
it is the Dispute. Theo shook his head. It was the Dispute off the second one. Draws. Dream Trawler is in. So this is a card that was a little speculative for Mystical Dispute in particular. Daniel drew it out with the Teferi. Is it going to be able to be good enough? Facing down quite a bit of power at this point.
Oh, it's going to have to be quite strong here, isn't it? Okay, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, there's not a lot of removal, if I had to guess, in Theo's deck left. Maybe you have one or two lightning axes if that's a thing that you keep around. A Crackling Drake, though, can trade with it very easily. That one's going to happen.
And there's a Petty Theft in hand, or a Brazen Barber Petty Theft in hand. I mean, just forcing the Dream Trawler to tap down is pretty strong.
Yeah, the question is, do you want to wait? I think you're going to wait until Daniel's turn in order to get the Crackling Drake through.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you do it now, but it is something that's going to be an option. Do you do it now or do you wait till the end of the turn? Because I feel like you might wait if you do it now. I mean, are you expecting Daniel to attack here? I'm not.
It's not clear. I would give him the option to, but even then, I'm not sure. I don't know. If he attacks, is that bad? I mean, Crackling Drake's so big that there has to be a removal spell involved anyway. If he has another copy of Negate, which he does, then I think you want to wait. You might even want to wait till your own turn and just keep your Crackling Drake alive. Because I mean, it's just we're doing the count right now. I mean, we've already treasure cruised. I would be shocked if this thing didn't have a double-digit power. But we did bring in some other weirdo stuff like Fables and stuff that doesn't actually grow it. But, I mean, it's typically Ross Merriam described the card as suspend one, win the game. And I think that's what it's going to represent here. Here is the attack. He does choose to attack. He does draw. So that's going to get 2 more points. That's a 5/5. 5 life coming through. Theo actually chooses to block with the Picklock Prankster.
Okay.
Pad his life a little bit in case things go wrong.
So this is now worse if there's a Supreme Verdict by a lot. As Daniel does get some life. All right, well, the block, I don't imagine there's going to be any interaction here.
Yeah, I'm curious why we stopped. Oh, we can grow it with Omen of the Sea. So he's thinking maybe about cantripping before damage to grow the Dream Trawler and get life above a certain threshold. It looks like that's exactly what we're going to do. So Omen of the Sea deployed here after blocks before damage. That's going to look at 2 cards. And if we're looking for specifically Supreme Verdict, which might be what Daniel has decided he needs, then the extra point of life is something that does matter. Both cards at the bottom, card coming off Omen of the Sea, that grows it to 6 power now for this Dream Trawler.
Okay, well, if Daniel returns to 20 and is relying on something like Wandering Emperor to save himself, he appears to be pretty dead. So it's going to have to be Verdict. Is there other options? Let's find out. There's a land.
We have a creature land that can block, right? We have a Restless Anchorage. It's a 2/3 bird.
Okay, that's true.
Blocks the Crackling Drake.
That's as long as you can stop the Crackling Drake. The rest of this stuff isn't, any realistic amount of damage.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not from 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we might be looking to throw a land away.
Maybe Daniel can even survive. How much damage is there not counting the Drake? There's 3, 7.
7, a lot, but not 20. I mean, 20 is a lot. Racing Dream Trawler, tough to do.
Yeah. And there's also potential of Shark Typhoon, I guess, blocking the Crackling Drake.
Sure. I mean, I think you'd want to wait until you can make it a 4/4. A 3/3 versus 4/4 actually a big deal versus Crackling Drake. As here comes another Crackling Drake. You can't really counter that one with anything but Mystical Dispute because you need quite a bit to activate this Restless Anchorage. So that one's going to work, and a card coming. I mean, at this point, Theo not even considering really Supreme Verdict anymore, I think. Although it does have a pile of cards to work with if it does happen. Able to just attack with everything. And the works here for Theo in hand. Probably not any removal spells. Brazen Barber can't pick up the Restless Anchorage. So Daniel looking good to get another turn. Again, we don't really have a power toughness on these Crackling Drakes, but if it's close and on the edge, he can cantrip with opt and stuff to grow it up. I have to imagine it's close. I don't really see a world where this Crackling Drake's just allowed to get through.
Yeah, and one cantrip also is going to kind of turn on the Ledger Shredder as well, so potentially you could grow twice.
And then the Ledger Shredder grows if you discard another.
That's yeah.
We can get +3, +4 maybe, and I think that's part of what Daniel's thinking about here. is what are the odds of that versus, maybe I can just try to tank it. I would be shocked if that were the case. Theo keeps moving the consider to the front of the hand alongside the brazen borrower. Daniel does choose to fire up the restless anchorage.
Okay, well, that is going to give him a turn as.
Oh, how about block young Pyromancer? You in? There it is. Block the young Pyromancer. All right. Okay. Do we have a get lost or something? Here's a consider. That's going to trigger the Ledger Shredder and the young Pyromancer. So yeah, here's just more garbage. Card coming. It's Arclight Phoenix. Have to be happy to discard that one. And then we get to resolve consider. And choose to keep the card. Has to be pretty good. It's Odawara.
Oh, that's this. Well,
is this enough?
It's 6. It would have to be 14. That's a lot.
Doesn't seem that hard. Yeah, we're doing a count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 right there. And then over there, what are we doing? We're just rearranging the graveyard.
Okay, it's not enough.
I guess it's not enough.
Daniel Weiser living on the edge here.
Blocking the young Pyromancer. Sure. To 3. We were 3 short.
Okay.
I think we could have made this happen. Between Opt and the works and discarding a spell instead of a Phoenix, I feel like we could have made this happen. Theo likes his spot enough to not really go for it. And there is the Hollowed Moonlight.
We are digging for Supreme Verdict like nobody's business.
I need Supreme Verdict, pretty please. If we can also Omen on upkeep if we're that desperate, but I don't think we're quite there yet. Card number 1 drawn. That's Dream Trawler's a 4/5 with lifelink. Going to attack basically no matter what Daniel's plan is, I imagine, because Verdict or nothing. And I think Theo recognizing that says, all right, we're just going to Brazen Borrow Dream Trawler now. I'll try to stymie some of this. And that's going to eat a Dovin's Veto. Okay.
That should not go to, okay. That goes to the graveyard.
5 mana left over for Daniel.
This looks so rough. This looks like, I think it seems, Theo probably realized this too. Daniel is drawing to Supreme Verdict here. And that's probably all there is.
Yeah, that's why he's willing to tap out of the gate, right? It's like all that matters is Supreme Verdict. I can't counter that anyway. Let's just try to stop this Dream Trawler from attacking. Is not able to do that. So it is going to attack, maybe considering a block.
Maybe. I don't know. Daniel getting 5 life here is virtually irrelevant. If the Drake trades with if there's trades and then Daniel has a spot removal spell for Crackling Drake.
I think that's what we're thinking about now.
He would be going to 1, but Ledger Shredder can probably grow next turn. And there's also Hall of Storm Giants. This just seems, oh boy. All right. Cycle
the farmland. We might be drawing to that now.
Yeah.
It's just like, can we find a spot removal for the other Drake and live? Because now we get an extra point.
But the Storm Giants is too much. He can't. I don't think Drake. I don't think
we're at 9. Maybe it's just Verdict. I don't know. He needs help.
He's got the land. There's a Verdict. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that triggers Ledger Shredder.
All right.
And a card coming for Theo. So he has Hall. And he has a bird. So I think you're not supposed to attack with Hall. I think he needs to go digging for the other birds next turn because I just can't get another turn.
I don't think you can. Can you spend your entire turn to not kill your opponent from this point? I don't know that you can.
I agree with that assessment. So I think the discard right now is considering that exact thing.
Yeah, Daniel Weiser, if you're watching this back in replay tomorrow or a month from now, and you were sandbagging that Verdict the whole time, congratulations to you because that was
He's so worrisome. Everything's on the line. We're just sitting here, just like absolutely losing our minds. He's like, yeah, whatever. Supreme Verdict. Yeah, get your stuff. Your turn. What is that? Hall? Didn't care. Didn't ask. Over to there we go. Spirebluff Canal, not a helpful draw. Chooses to start on young Pyromancer of all things. Makes a lot of sense if our plan is to try to find some birds. If we fail, maybe we still have a board that's worth dealing with, and we still have our halls. So I don't hate this, but we need help. And Stormcarved Coast not going to help at all as once again.
We need help, really, from Theo's seat? I don't know that we need that much help.
Well, Treasure Cruise is a lot of help.
Yeah, it is. That's true. And if Daniel's plan next turn was to buy Yorion and play it, that is
not that
probably
weak.
enough to get him another turn.
Yeah, that's really what Daniel's entire game plan has been, is get me another turn until I guess I find my second Dream Trawler, because that's the card, or Field of Ruins or what have you. There's a lot of draws here. And another Treasure Cruise picked up for Theo. That's got to be a good one. Oh, some great draws here. Can deploy the Stormcarved Coast. Are we interested? Fable, another cruise. It's going to be another cruise. Negate still up for Theo. 6 cards coming to start. This is like what crazy stuff we saw with like the One Ring and stuff. I mentioned cutting a few of the Delve spells. Theo getting very rewarded for keeping a lot of them in. No rest.
Sure is. He had a game to play with here, having won the first one, but this one's looking 2 more arc lights.
Can you get them in the yard? If you can get them in the yard, it's a W. I don't think we can, but we can get our first one back and attack for 3.
And boy, Theo is very well set up for a follow-up next turn.
Yeah, you can either do 2 birds to kill. We have Hall the Storm Giants to kill. A lot of different ways we can kill. And I'm surprised we didn't have to move to discards there, which is 6 cards. All right, whatever. Sick.
Okay, Daniel. Surveying the board.
All right.
Trying to figure out, okay, what do we have here? We've got, if we have problems. Supreme Verdict number 2, Hallowed Moonlight number 2, then we only have to deal with Hall of the Storm Giants.
Yeah, now we're talking about multiple cards, right? Like Field of Ruin plus Verdict plus.
We're talking about multiple cards no matter what. There's no one card that's going to fix this.
True. Yeah.
So we're talking about multiple cards in any scenario here for Daniel Weiser.
Right. Oh, such a tough spot. And I think, Weiser, he had the Verdict for a long time previously. Castle Vantress is very explicitly not a Field of Ruin, and it's gonna be Yorion that flickers both. Even if we find a March, I don't think that's good enough.
All right, so we can.
All right, second
what
one.
Can we beat from Daniel's seat here?
We
know
an F6 through combat.
Yeah, okay.
If he doesn't animate Hall or something,
maybe he'll deck himself.
Theo's checking right now. Yeah, I don't think he's decking himself.
No, I don't very far
from that. It does come up sometimes, but it's not going to come up here.
All right, so if
make another 1/1.
If Theo has nothing, and Hall Storm Giant attacks, Yorion Chump blocks, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Daniel can't even beat that.
Yeah, he can't even beat non-activate Hall. It just needs to be a straight F6 through combat. Even like a March connects the bird. You get a block. It's going to be another bird. And then we have another bird. Whatever. We're actually just bouncing this. Yeah. Theo has all the things. Turns out when you cast multiple Treasure Cruises, you have all the things. And Theo, a convincing 2-0 victory over Daniel Weiser, someone that coming in on the play has won this matchup in high stakes situations before. In the interview, told us this is the matchup he wanted to play, and 2-0.
Yeah, Theo. And it looked good doing it. Looked like in command. Knew how he wanted the games to play out, and dispatches Daniel Weiser. And Daniel Weiser will now fail to make Sunday. He's failed to make stage 3, and Theo Jung advances. We'll find out in a moment whether we're going to get any of the other match being played. There are only 2 matches this round, or maybe we'll have an interview with Theo or some other player. But in the meantime, that's a tough beat for Daniel Weiser. Nothing appeared to exactly go against him, aside from maybe did not draw a rest in peace, and that's obviously a significant part of your plan. Also, maybe you're hoping your opponent weakens their deck to be able to handle rest in peace better. It did not appear that Theo necessarily did that either.
No, multiple Treasure Cruise resolved in that final sequence. Yeah. And those are cards that I mentioned. I traditionally trimmed on, and I would expect, Theo to have maybe trimmed on. But honestly, you can cast them. 8 mana, whatever. We were there.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's true.
They're not that bad, even under a rest in peace in this matchup. You're going to get to 8 mana. And like I said, Theo's deck, I think, was a lot more prepared than the average Phoenix deck. And I don't even think the average Phoenix deck is that far behind to begin with, as long as there's no farewells. And constantly, that's what we're talking about. Graveyard presence matters. If at any point there's a farewell in that deck, and you get to annihilate that graveyard, annihilate those Phoenixes, and get everything in the process, the game looks very different. But that just never came up. Supreme Verdict looks way worse for that exact reason, able to rebuild right away. And with all the cards you had access to, I mean, I'm not that surprised. That I was shocked at how much stuff there was, but it makes a lot of sense and a great call from Theo, and punches his ticket to day 2 for it.
Yeah, no, it was. And I mean, Daniel Drew, I mean, we saw Halloween Moonlight come up a little late, but there was no point where it would have been a blowout anyway. We saw the Dream Trawler show up. It, traded in combat. That was, I mean, it did some work.
Better than I expected. I expected it to be a Mystical Dispute Rod, and instead it did actually stick in play and get to go to work. So I was a little surprised at that aspect. It did look very good. Daniel Weiser's an expert, in his deck, even though that performance, maybe wouldn't speak to it.
Also part of Magic. Even matchups, sure. If you're prepared, if you're solid, even if it's favorable, which I don't know that we're going to say it definitively is, but even if it is, you're still losing a decent amount of time. And it's not like he's playing against a weak opponent here. He's playing against Theo Jung, who's right here in the booth ready to talk to us. Congratulations.
All right. Hey, how are you doing?
We're doing good. How are you doing is what the viewers want to know.
It's been an exhausting day, but I'm glad I could close that one.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah. It is taxing. You were one of the 4 people that had to play all day long, but your reward for that is you get to get up and play tomorrow morning too.
Yeah, it feels great.
Good.
Yeah, mostly excited.
Talk to me a little bit. Yeah, I believe you. We won't keep you too long. I know you're exhausted, and I'm sure everybody involved in NRG is exhausted. Some awesome Magic we've seen today. Going into this tournament, you chose Phoenix as your Pioneer deck, one of a couple players to do so, and traditionally, I would say it's gone back and forth with how the blue-eye control matchup is. When you're going to veto matchups against Daniel Weiser, someone that just won the RC, beating Phoenix in the finals, talk to me about choosing to play Pioneer or by virtue of vetoing the other formats and your approach to that.
So I think the matchup's actually somewhat close from both sides, especially post-board. You get a lot of tools to combat it. Also, the other option was playing against the Teferi deck and a counterspell deck on the draw with Rhinos, so that didn't really seem great. And Daniel vetoed standard, so yeah.
Okay. Going into the weekend, which format were you thinking, this is my strength and which is my weakness compared to the rest of the field?
Yeah, I definitely say I put more work into standard than any other format, mostly because there was more to figure out, more room to explore. I ended up on a build of Esper that I imagine more like most people didn't. That was a lot more aggressive and lean, and I feel really great about that deck. I feel okay about the other decks, but yeah.
Okay. Well, one more double elimination batch tomorrow morning, and then top 4 beckons, and in that place, no hiding. You got to play all 3 formats. So exciting stuff. I mean, that's
a good thing. I get to play standard.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you finally get to beat people up in the format you've prepared.
Yeah, I mean, several people we talked to said they practice a lot of standard. I think probably because at least in the Midwest or maybe in the whole world, like standard has not been a premium format recently, and now it's kind of sort of becoming one. This being the first weekend of the new qualifying season, and it's the format, and also obviously it coming into play here, and you all having to prepare for it. Did it feel like were you happy having 3 formats, or would you prefer 2?
I think I'm overall happy that it was 3 formats because I'm someone who plays a lot and plays a lot of different formats, whereas a lot of the competitors, some of them tend to specialize towards certain formats and not others. So yeah, I think it was a plus for me.
Okay.
Well, your day 2 performance certainly speaks to that. Congratulations once again.
All right,
and like I said, we won't want to keep you too long. Good luck tomorrow, and incredible performance today.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. That was Theo Jung, day 2 competitor. All right. We have the backup match. The other match is in game 2. We're going to go live. So let's go ahead and move over there.
Last match playing Magic in the entire room.
Yeah,
my understanding is correct.
No, it is. You are right. So let's go to the table. Let's not miss any more than we don't have to. Matthew Weiss, Kyle Gonzalez. We're playing standard this time. We are in game 2, it looks like, with Kyle up a game and also the only one with a board presence right now.
And a good one at that. It looks like a Glissa Sunslayer. I mean, that's a card that is a good one to have turned sideways. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it generally is. And the life totals, I wonder if we just haven't got things updated yet, because it'd be unusual for the life totals to be this high at this point in the game. So production, maybe you can either update that or let us know if this actually is correct.
would be wild if it was correct, as Shieldred is going to muddy up the life totals as it is known to do.
All
But
right, there we
doesn't
go.
actually block Glissa Sunslayer.
No, nothing blocks
Nothing
Glissa
does. I don't
Sunslayer.
even know what I'm talking. Nothing except other Glissas or whatever blocks it. As
All right, and it's not even going to be around to do that.
Anyway, yeah, as here comes beat counts.
All right,
this is a tough spot for Matthew Weiss. Just
Yeah.
continually damage coming down to 11. And there's the positive heroes to keep the Glissa Sunslayer alive if we choose to, adding Rona to the mix. Maybe not necessarily the most relevant card at this exact moment, as this Glissa has been going to town.
Oh boy, Gliss is such a beating. I mean, this is that the soldier token?
Yeah, that's
the virtue, the white virtue. Yeah.
Ardenvale Fealty, I believe the spell version of that. I have to imagine we're doing that just to get a blocker in play.
I think we're doing
we're
both
actually going to play both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part 1, part 2. Now, if we have a removal spell for this token, I believe one of Glissa's modes is destroy an enchantment. So if we can get Glissa through, it'll be brutal. As Takanuma going to get cycled. Didn't get a look at what was picked up. Had a little bit of a lag there for me as we go back to Kyle Gonzalez. Again, if he can just get this thing through. I think he just flashed a removal spell of some kind. That's gonna be a beating. No, I think he's just reminding what he picked up.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
a little choppy for me here.
3 across. Get rid of the virtue. All right.
Yeah.
You called that one. There's Rona goes to work. Oh yeah, this is Kyle is probably feeling pretty. I mean, I know right now in this seat you're stressed. You're thinking more about how do I not lose, not how do I win, how do I finish this off? But things are looking great.
And Slogurk added. Yeah, I mean, Plaza up, Slogurk added, Rona running, Glissa running, Matthew Weiss down to 5. I don't even know what getting out of this looks like for Matthew Weiss. And he has 2 or 3 cards to do it. Takanuma is how it's going to start.
Okay. Not optimistic. There's a lot of cards in the graveyard.
Thinking about what to pick up. Yeah, I think we're still thinking about what to pick up here. Yeah, and it's going to be Rafine. Rafine picked up and cast. That's going to be answered by Airtar Resurrected. And we're going to hold priority on the Rona trigger and go ahead and loot with that on the stack. Graveyard.
Oh, this is
deep
overwhelming.
No.
First counter. I mean, this is. We're already there, right? This is.
Yeah, we graveyarded Takanuma, and now Slugurk's up a counter.
Yeah. Well,
we can look at that one.
And there's an Otawara, and there is a handshake, and Kyle Gonzalez. Is through. Matthew Weiss will be defeated here and not make stage 3, but Kyle Gonzalez moves on to join Theo Zhang and the other 6 players who advanced into day 2. This
completely different performance than we saw against the Esper Legends deck. I mean, Kyle Gonzalez kind of got beat up against the Esper Legends. Right. Well, apparently against Esper mid-range, there's your good matchup. Got to beat that up. And yeah, like I said, day 2 performance for that. Looking really convincing. And a deck I'm kind of personally rooting for because it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, Slugurk, I mean, these channel lands, and it's very, I agree, it's very cool.
I've played with a lot. Yeah, it's cool.
I know. No, it has, it's like, it's a somewhat same package of stuff with this recursive ability to, when you're using Otawara for 4 mana or 3 mana, it's like, okay, that's fine. That's good use for land. 1 mana? That's a great deal. Takanuma? Yeah, oh my gosh. It's lopsided. Yes, Slugurk really does a lot of work. All right, so that is going to conclude the Magic play for today. Production is going to work on an updated bracket for us, or I'm not graphic, to show you the final results of today. In the meantime, we are going to go through the upcoming events for the year, and if you want to stick around for a minute or 2, or we'll see. But either way, before we get to that, you know what? Coverage will be back tomorrow morning, so if you are going to check out right now, it's been a long day. We thank you for being here. Dominic Harvey and Devin O'Donnell will pick up the double elimination package tomorrow morning in stage 3. And then after that, I do hope you choose to tune in to the top 4 and the finals, where we'll have a couple of new commentators for Nerd Rage. We'll have Emma Partlow and Jesse Robkin. I think this is something that I'm very pleased about, getting new people, getting faces from the series into the commentator booth to have fresh opinions, that instead of just looking at, Drake and I over and over again. So hopefully you enjoy that. But okay, the leaderboard, the graphic is ready. So let's go ahead and pop it up. And you can see where all the players landed today.
Oh, I love the thumbs ups.
There is. Yeah, you know what? When I first saw that, I was like, I don't know about this, but you know what? It works okay.
It's growing on me.
yeah, it's all right. So you can see here at this point in the tournament, Derek Davis, Eric Berghardt, Will Kowalczyk, Ben Unger, Matthew Weiss, Chris Smith, Grayson Nemitz, and Daniel Weiser are no longer with us. They fought hard. They did not make it to stage number 3. Those that did, Theo Zhang, who we just saw, as well as Kyle Gonzalez. Then Steven Dykman, our only undefeated player, Ryan Hayes, Fletcher Johnson, Jonathan Hobbs, Matthew Hoey, and Raja Sulaim still live to defend from last year.
Love that so much. Able to just show up and get it done over and over again. You talk about kind of consistent performances. Raja won, of course, in 2022, able to come back, kind of representing the same stuff he's always done in, day number 2, doing the same stuff he's always done. He's face up what he's going to bring, and he gets it done.
And Raja is probably fairly fatigued, also playing lots of control. Matthew Hoey, 2-time winner of the NRG Championship, also in the field tomorrow. So we hope you will join us for that. Should be a good time. Stage 3 will be a repeat of what you just saw, double elimination, vetoing formats. Players will end up playing, hopefully, what's the most competitive match out of the 3 options. And then top 4 and the finals, no vetoes. Best 2 out of 3 matches for each seat in the semis, and then the finals will be a repeat of that. So the semis and finals could be a minimum of 4 matches, could be a maximum of 6. We will see. Drake and I will probably be watching along tomorrow. We'll see who ends up the winner. $6,000 Pro Tour invite, NRG Championship re-invite on the line at the top of the standings. And there you can see it there. All right. Drake Sasser, thanks for joining me this evening. I hope you had a good time.
I sure did. It was a lot of fun. Always fun watching high stakes Magics, talented players. I mean, like I said, I said it before when you asked me about it, and I mean it, and I still mean it now. This is what competitive Magic's about. The Magic you watch today between players that know each other well, decks they're familiar with, tight play across the board. It's just, you can't get that Magic anywhere else. And these really exclusive, extremely high EV. You want to talk about Magic EV? Here it is. 16 players,
right, exactly.
All this money, all these invites, everything on the line. This is what it's about. And I even though it's late, we've been commentating a lot. I'm still, energized. I'm excited for tomorrow because this is just literally a once-a-year thing, and I look forward to it every single year. It is great stuff.
And Drake, I want to applaud you. Only one Commander reference on my checklist. I might have missed one, but either way, you did good.
I'll step it up.
Better than my expectations. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Stream will restart tomorrow morning with Stage 3. Thanks for being with us. Good night.